Chapter 2595. In a one-on-one situation, Longao wasn't afraid of any peak starry sky immortal. Combined with many sure kill moves, he could kill a peak starry sky immortal in the shortest time possible. The fourth plane. Longao rushed to the fourth starry sky empire as fast as he could and started attacking the peak starry sky immortal. In this situation, time was of the essence, because Longao didn't know how long the 11 half-step starry sky rulers would be trapped. If they realized something was wrong and left Yellow Wasp Ridge, he would lose this opportunity. He was very anxious. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Inside Yellow Wasp Ridge, the 11 half-step starry sky rulers had already defeated the Yellow Wasp race, but they still didn't leave Yellow Wasp Ridge. The reason was simple. This time, they finally locked onto Longao's position. If they couldn't kill Longao, who knew what would happen if he went into hiding? But gradually, everyone began to realize that something was amiss. The third day, dusk slowly fell. The 11 had already realized something was wrong because Longao still hadn't shown up. After leaving Yellow Wasp Ridge, their faces were gloomy. Intuition told them that something was wrong, but they couldn't tell what it was. Everyone, what should we do now? The 11 were almost certain that Longao was most likely not in Yellow Wasp Ridge because no one would take the risk to enter. Longao wasn't a fool. It was like throwing an egg against a rock if he wanted to fight against 11 of them alone. According to my guess, if I'm not mistaken, not only is Longao not in Yellow Wasp Ridge, he has even fled far away. Even though they knew Longao wasn't here, the 11 still came without hesitation mainly because they were unwilling to give up. Longao's talent and strength were there for all to see. If they didn't get rid of him as soon as possible, who knew how far Longao would grow in the future? Just as the 11 were about to leave, suddenly, several figures came from the 4th and 9th starry sky empires and knelt down in front of the 11, their bodies trembling slightly. What's going on? For some reason, Xiafeng and the others had a bad feeling when they saw the reaction of the people from their respective empires. Could it be? Reporting, it was the same report. In just a few seconds, all the half-step sovereigns, including Bai Jing and Zhou Dian, had a gloomy look on their faces. They already knew why Longao wasn't at Yellow Wasp Ridge. To lure the tiger away from the mountain. Longao's original intention wasn't them, but rather all the peak universe undyings from the 4th to 9th cosmic empires. In the vast starry sky, there were a total of 9 great starry sky empires. Every universe empire had a pinnacle universe undying in charge. Other than the first universe empire having 4 peak universe undyings and the second universe empire having 3 peak universe undyings, the other empires only had 1. But now, other than the first and second universe empires, the rest of the universe empires had all had their peak universe undyings killed by Longao. What kind of concept was that? Anger. Endless anger turned into rumbling, killing intent that shot up to the heavens. Xiafeng and the others were furious because Longao's actions were a clear provocation. If they didn't kill Longao, they wouldn't have any face left. The news of Longao killing the pinnacle universe undyings instantly spread throughout the vast space. Everyone who knew about this matter turned pale with fright because Longao's actions were unprecedented. Not to mention Starry Sky Immortal Realm experts, even a half-step Starry Sky Dominator wouldn't dare to do this. What was Longao trying to do? Under normal circumstances, the 9 empires should be thanking the heavens for not finding trouble with Longao. But now, not only did Longao not hide, he even took the initiative to attack, killing all the peak universe undyings from the 4th to 9th universe empires. If it were anyone else, it wouldn't matter, even if it was a universe undyings. Only the peak universe undyings. Peak universe undyings were existences that even the 9 universe empires couldn't afford to lose. After all, the 4th to 9th universe empires only had 1 peak universe undyings. The news of Longao killing the pinnacle universe undyings shook the entire universe. The Martial Heaven continent. In the outer sea, within the Crystal Palace, 11 half-step sovereigns stood respectfully, not daring to say a word. Not only had they failed to complete the mission given to them by the God Diviner, but they had also suffered heavy losses. This was probably the greatest loss they had suffered in countless years. The God Diviner's expression was indifferent, and there wasn't the slightest hint of anger. But that was also why they were afraid. If the God Diviner lost his mind, even if the 11 of them worked together, they wouldn't be a match for him. What was the God Diviner thinking? Father, what should we do now? Yidugu was also shocked. He had never imagined that Longao, who was only a starry sky immortal, would be able to kill peak universe undyings, and not just one. If the 11 of them hadn't said it themselves, Yidugu wouldn't have believed it. The God Diviner smiled. As expected, my calculations were wrong. It seems that it won't be long before Longao becomes a threat to you. The 11 of them still didn't say anything. They naturally knew what the God Diviner meant. It was also because of this that they couldn't wait to kill Longao. Longao's cultivation speed was too fast, and no one knew how strong Longao would become in the future. The 11 of them had ugly expressions, especially Gongsun, He, Xiafeng, and the others. After all, Longao had dealt with them, while the first and second Starry Sky empires hadn't suffered any losses. This matter is not your fault. Longao's variables are too big. Even I don't have the slightest way to deal with him. However, I have already thought of an excellent way to make Longao walk right into the trap. Hearing the words of the godly mathematician, whether it was the 11 people or Yidugu, all of them were happy. Yidugu asked impatiently, Father, I don't know what method you have thought of. How should we deal with Longao? Jianling Mountain. Jianling Mountain? Where is that place? Everyone was very curious. They didn't know where this Jianling Mountain was, but they knew that since the God Diviner was so confident, there shouldn't be any accidents. They just didn't know how the God Diviner was going to deal with Longao. That was what they were most concerned about. Chapter 2596. Do you know the Jianling Star Dominator? The 11 of them nodded in unison. Obviously, they were well aware of the Jianling Star Dominator that Master God Diviner had mentioned. There were a total of 12 astral rulers in the vast universe. They were the Dominator of the 5 elements Starry Sky, the Dominator of the Devouring Starry Sky, the Dominator of the Lightning Starry Sky, the Dominator of the Space Starry Sky, the Dominator of the Time Starry Sky, the Dominator of the Destruction Starry Sky, the Dominator of the Reincarnation Starry Sky, the Dominator of the Slaughter Starry Sky, the Dominator of the Divination Starry Sky, the Dominator of the Sword Intent Starry Sky, the Dominator of the Immortal Tyrant Body Starry Sky, and the Dominator of the Darkness Starry Sky. Could it be that Jianling Mountain had something to do with the Jianling Star Dominator? You guessed right. Jianling Mountain is where Xiling cultivate. What did that mean? The 11 of them were a little confused because they didn't know what the Jianling Mountain was for. Their target was Longao, not Jianling Star Dominator. What did the divine mathematician mean? How could Master God Diviner not know what the 11 of them were thinking? Ever since I found out about the relationship between Xiling and Longao, I've been trying to calculate the location of Jianling Mountain. After so many years, I've finally figured it out. No one spoke. Everyone just listened quietly. Xiling has a sister called Bai Ling, she's a peak space undying. I've already made a trip to Jianling Mountain and discovered that Xiling's Jianling origin is no longer there. If I'm not wrong, it should have been taken away by Xiling. No one said anything. Even now, no one knew what Master God Diviner was talking about. Although Xiling's original Jianling isn't there, I discovered that Bai Ling's original Jianling was left there. No one was a fool, and they instantly understood what Master Godly Mathematician meant. Let's go. Master God Diviner, Yi Dugu, and 11 half-step star rulers left the Outer Sea Crystal Palace and headed for the Jianling Mountains. Other than Xiling, Bai Ling, and the marvelous mathematician, no one else knew the location of Jianling Mountain. Even Longao didn't know. The location of Jianling Mountain was very well hidden. Due to Xiling's deliberate planning, no one was able to discover the location of Jianling Mountain from beginning to end. Soaring Dragon Realm. Bai Ling, who was in closed-door cultivation, suddenly had a bad premonition. His heart was troubled. He didn't know what was going on. What was going on? If it were anything else, Bai Ling would have tolerated it. However, this was the first time something like this had happened. At Xiling's place. Bai Ling, what's wrong? Xiling was very curious because Bai Ling's face was very pale. It seemed like something had happened. Sister, it's me. Looking at his sister who wanted to speak but stopped, Xiling was very anxious. Bai Ling, what happened? Hurry up and tell me. Seeing that her elder sister was getting more and more anxious, Bai Ling sighed deeply and told her everything that had happened to her in detail. Xiling certainly knew what Bai Ling meant. His face was very solemn. When one's cultivation reached their level, their intuition was very accurate under normal circumstances. Bai Ling, what do you think happened? Sister, Jianling Mountain. Jianling Mountain? Hearing his sister mention Jianling Mountain, Xiling instantly knew what had happened. He didn't dare to hesitate and immediately left the Soaring Dragon Realm with Bai Ling. He didn't summon anyone. Time was of the essence. They couldn't waste any time. Otherwise, they wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. It wasn't that Bai Ling didn't want to merge with her origin Jianling. Ever since she was seriously injured, Bai Ling left her origin Jianling in Jianling Mountain, hoping that her origin Jianling could recover as soon as possible. That way, her cultivation might be able to reach a higher level. But what happened? If something really happened to the origin Jianling, she would be completely finished. The two of them couldn't figure out who could pinpoint the location of Jianling Mountain. In the vast starry sky, it seemed that there were only a few people who could pinpoint the location of Jianling Mountain. Could it be the Oracle? Jianling Mountain. Jianling Mountain was not in any plain. It was a giant peak that reached the sky, standing alone in the vast starry sky. However, Xiling had set up an energy shield around Jianling Mountain. Ordinary people couldn't break it at all. Other starry sky cultivators couldn't break the energy shield, but that didn't mean that the starry sky rulers couldn't. However, unless it was absolutely necessary, no starry sky ruler would casually provoke Xiling. After all, Xiling was also a starry sky ruler. Even if he hadn't refined the Chaos Stone tablet yet, it didn't mean that he wouldn't be able to do so in the future. The Oracle didn't care at all. Because of Longao, he and Xiling wouldn't have a good relationship. Rather than that, it didn't matter if he had a falling out with Xiling or not. He didn't care about Xiling. Right now, the clairvoyant master only cared about Longao's life and death. As long as he could successfully kill Longao and take everything from Longao's hands, he did not care even if he had to offend Purple Spirit. By the time Xiling and Bai Ling arrived at Jianling Mountain, their faces were as dark as they could get. As soon as they entered Jianling Mountain, they sensed that the energy shield around them had been tampered with. There was no doubt that Bai Ling's senses were correct. What was going on? Big sister, do you think it was the Oracle and his people? Bai Ling was very anxious. She knew very well that if the Oracle really locked onto her origin Jianling, it wouldn't be just her. The Oracle's real target wouldn't be her, but the man behind her, Longao. No matter what happened, she didn't want anything to happen to Longao. Xiling must have thought of the same thing as Bai Ling, but there was nothing she could do. Even now, she didn't know if something had happened to her origin Jianling. Don't worry, Yangqi said. We've sealed your sword essence spirit together. Even if Master God Diviner wants to lock onto your sword essence spirit, it won't be easy. Are you really not worried? It would be a lie to say that she wasn't worried. Xiling knew very well that once her sister's origin Jianling was locked onto, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, she couldn't be the first to panic. Her sister was already extremely anxious. If she panicked, her sister would definitely panic. Thinking of this, Xiling became even more worried. Xiling, since you're here, why don't you show yourself? Violet's spirit was actually guessing, because she didn't know whether this was the work of the Oracle or not. If it was really the Oracle, then this matter would be very troublesome, because among the 12 of them, only the Oracle was the starry sky ruler. If it was anyone else, then she wouldn't be so worried. Chapter 2597. Ha! Ha ha ha! Along with the laughter, the godly mathematician and the others appeared. Xiling, long time no see. Xiling's face was dark. What the godly mathematician was doing was a clear provocation to him. Right now, all pretenses of cordiality were gone. Godly mathematician, what do you mean by this? Looking at the dark face of Xiling, the godly mathematician was not bothered at all. Since he dared to do this, he must have thought of the consequences, not to mention that Xiling had yet to regain his powers as a ruler of the stars. Even if Xiling were to refine the Chaos Stone Tablet, the godly mathematician would not be afraid. Xiling, don't tell me you don't know my intentions? How could Xiling not know? Xiling naturally knew that the godly mathematician was not doing this for her and Bai Ling. His real target was Longao. He was surprised. Under normal circumstances, the godly mathematician would not offend another ruler of the stars for the sake of a single Longao. That did not make sense. Seemed like the godly mathematician had high hopes for Longao. But thinking about it, it made sense. Longao's innate potential and cultivation speed were there for all to see. Especially since the godly mathematician had already calculated that Longao was a variable in his plans. It would be a lie to say that he was not afraid. Xiling looked at the half-step rulers around the godly mathematician and laughed coldly. I have no way of taking you guys down right now. Once I refine the Chaos Stone Tablet, you guys will be taken down. The 11 rulers of the stars did not say anything. They were wary of Xiling. No matter what, Xiling was still the Jianling ruler of the stars. Once he regained his peak powers, it would not be difficult for him to take them down. On one side, it was the godly mathematician. On the other, it was Xiling. If both of them were rulers of the stars, it would definitely be difficult for them to make a decision. But the situation right now was different. The godly mathematician's strength did not need to be mentioned. But Xiling was not the same. As long as one was not a fool, anyone would choose him. Since they had already made their choice, it was too late for regrets. As for Yi Dugu, he did not care about Xiling's threat at all. Not to mention that he had a powerful father, but he had already devoured the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet. Once he refined the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet and became the ruler of space, he wouldn't need to fear Xiling. Xiling, as long as you help me deal with Longao, I won't touch Bai Ling's origin Jianling. What do you think? Xiling's cold snort had already revealed too much. It was just a joke. Even if he was willing, his sister wouldn't be willing. Since you're not willing, don't blame me for being impolite. The Jianling master wasn't afraid of Xiling and the others at all because of his strength. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't want to take the risk, he would have only hoped to successfully obtain the origin Jianling so that he could deal with Longao. How could Violet's spirit not know what Master God Diviner meant? That was why. Xiling's heart calmed down because he was almost certain that the clairvoyant master hadn't yet obtained his sister's Jianling origin. Otherwise, he would have left immediately instead of wasting time with Xiling. Neither of them made a move, each with his own ulterior motives. However, the clairvoyant master was guarding one of the entrances. It was almost impossible for Xiling and Bai Ling to enter. Enter Jianling Mountain and find Bai Ling's origin Jianling. Yes. Yidugu led 11 half-step rulers into Jianling Mountain in a single file to search for the so-called origin Jianling. Xiling didn't move, but Bai Ling was extremely anxious. Bai Ling was anxious not because of her origin Jianling, but because she knew very well that if the clairvoyant master and the others took control of her origin Jianling, Brother Long would be in a very passive position. Who knew what would happen? Sister. She spoke with her spiritual sense. Sister, don't be impatient. The clairvoyant master hasn't gone to find the origin Jianling himself because he wants to stop us. The situation is very dangerous now. The only way is to find Longao. No, absolutely not. Bai Ling was shocked. The clairvoyant master was doing this to deal with Brother Long. If they really did as the clairvoyant master wished and found Brother Long would definitely be in danger. Things would become very troublesome then. She would rather die than put Brother Long in danger for the sake of her origin Jianling. How could Xiling not know what Bai Ling meant? However, the situation had already reached this point. No one could solve it except for Longao. If Longao found out that something happened to his sister because of him, he would definitely regret it. Not only that, but Xiling also didn't want anything to happen to his sister. In this vast starry sky, he didn't seem to have any relatives except for his sister. Let's go. Things had already reached this point. Bai Ling didn't have the slightest solution. As long as the clairvoyant master didn't leave this place, they wouldn't be able to take half a step inside. Watching the two leave, the clairvoyant master still didn't step into the Jianling Mountain to search for the origin Jianling. This was because he didn't know when Xiling and Bai Ling would return. If he went in and the two of them took the opportunity to enter, who knew what would happen? Xiling and Bai Ling's expressions were very serious. This was because they didn't know where Longao was now. In her heart, Bai Ling didn't want Brother Longao to come. After all, the clairvoyant master was very strong. If Longao came rashly, she would be very worried. However, after Xiling's persuasion, Bai Ling gradually understood the reason. If they couldn't take back the origin Jianling, Brother Long would find out about it sooner or later. Then, it would be even more troublesome. It was better to think of a way to take back the origin Jianling before the clairvoyant master got his hands on it. Sister, Brother Long killed the peak starry sky immortals of the 9 great starry sky empires. Under normal circumstances, Brother Long should have left the 9 great starry sky empires. Xiling didn't think so. She knew Longao's character very well. If it were anyone else, they would have left the 9 great starry sky empires after killing the peak starry sky immortals. Only Longao didn't succeed in killing the peak starry sky immortals of the 1st and 2nd starry sky empires, even after killing the peak starry sky immortals of the 3rd to 9th starry sky empires. Bai Ling, I'm almost certain that Longao is either in the 1st or 2nd starry sky empires. There's no doubt about it. Bai Ling was very curious, but since her sister had said so, she didn't say anything else. As for whether Brother Long was in the 1st or 2nd starry sky empires, it was still unknown. Chapter 2598. Xiling and Bai Ling first went to the 2nd starry sky empire. However, Longao was not in the 2nd starry sky empire at all. The two did not hesitate and immediately went to the 1st starry sky empire. Not sure if it was telepathy, the two found Longao in just one day. They were very curious. Longao did not know why Xiling and Bai Ling were looking for him so anxiously. However, they told him directly that the two must have something urgent. Otherwise, they would not be in such a hurry. What was it? He had a bad feeling in his heart. Because under normal circumstances, as long as it was not a huge matter, he believed that Xiling and Bai Ling would not leave the soaring dragon realm. What happened? Without waiting for Bai Ling to say anything, Xiling had already told him the whole story. He was very calm. Longao, don't act rashly. The reason why the clairvoyant master guarded the Jianling mountain and took his sister's origin Jianling was to deal with you. If you act rashly, you will fall into his trap. How could Longao not know what Xiling meant? Are you sure the clairvoyant master has not taken the origin Jianling? I don't think so. Longao did not dare to be careless. He knew very well what it meant if Bai Ling's origin Jianling was controlled by the clairvoyant master. The consequences would be unimaginable. What a despicable and shameless clairvoyant master. Originally, he had already smoothly killed all the Pinnacle Universe Undyings from the 3rd and 9th Universe Empires, but Longao didn't choose to give up. Instead, he stayed in the 1st and 2nd Universe Empires, preparing to continue killing the Pinnacle Universe Undyings from the 1st and 2nd Universe Empires. However, killing the Peak Starry Sky Immortals of the 1st and 2nd Starry Sky Empire was nothing compared to Bai Ling's origin Jianling. Brother Long, please don't take the risk. I'd rather. Before Bai Ling could speak, Longao had already interrupted her and said, I know what to do. You follow your sister back to the Soaring Dragon Empire first, leave the rest to me. Brother Long, don't worry about me. With the protection of the Primal Chaos Palace, nothing will happen to me. It would be strange if he wasn't worried. Bai Ling was well aware of what Master God Diviner represented. Furthermore, he was trying to take her essence Jianling in order to deal with Longao, who knew what he was up to. He was extremely worried. Not to mention Bai Ling, even Xiling would not agree to this. She didn't want anything to happen to her sister, nor did she want anything to happen to Longao. Longao, although I haven't regained my strength as a Starry Sky ruler, I can help you. Let my sister go back first. I'll stay and help you. Longao waved his hand. I've just said that none of you need to stay. Without you, I can focus on dealing with Master God Diviner and the others. Otherwise, once I have someone to worry about, I may end up making a fool of myself. If it were before, Longao would definitely not say this. But the situation now was completely different. Longao knew that he must not be soft-hearted in this situation. Otherwise, if Xiling and Bai Ling were to follow him and something happened to them, he wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. Xiling and Bai Ling seemed to want to say something, but Longao directly interrupted them and said, Listen to me, go back immediately. As a Starry Sky ruler, how could Xiling casually listen to someone? But at this moment, whether it was Xiling or Bai Ling, they didn't continue to say anything. They nodded obediently and left. Without the two holding him back, Longao finally breathed a sigh of relief. In the distance, Sister, I'm worried about Brother Long. Longao was right just now. If we insist on going, we may become a burden to him. If she could recover her peak strength, Xiling would definitely not leave. But if that was the case, she believed that Longao would not let her go. In the current situation, she had to recognize the facts. However, Bai Ling was still extremely worried. That was because she definitely couldn't let anything happen to Big Brother Long. Therefore, she said with an unwavering expression, Big Sister, I must go to the Spirit Sword Mountain. Even if something happens, I want to be with Big Brother Long. Xiling knew his sister's character very well. Once she had decided on something, she would never change her mind easily, especially when it came to Longao. If it was something else, Xiling would definitely listen to Bai Ling. But this matter, Xiling knew very well that he couldn't relax in the slightest. Otherwise, if something happened to Bai Ling, or if the gains didn't make up for the losses, he would really become a sinner. Regardless of whether Bai Ling was willing or not, Xiling directly trapped Bai Ling. No matter how anxious Bai Ling screamed, he chose to ignore her in the end. Longao originally wanted to deal with the 1st and 2nd Starry Sky Empires, but now the situation was completely different. Time was of the essence for him, because the longer he delayed, the more unfavorable it would be for him and Bai Ling. Before Xiling left, he had already told Longao the location of Jianling Mountain. According to Xiling, in addition to the Oracle and Yi Gudu, there were 11 half-step starry sky dominators from the 3 top races in Jianling Mountain. In other words, there was no half-step starry sky dominator in the 9 great starry sky empires. Should he go to Jianling Mountain now? In the end, Longao's rationality prevailed over his impulse, because Longao knew that even if he rushed back to Jianling Mountain now, it would be too late. In that case, a day or two later would not affect the outcome at all. Xiling had also said that even if the Oracle and the others had taken control of Jianling Mountain, it would not be easy to lock onto the origin of Jianling Mountain in a short period of time. It was precisely because of this that Longao decided to stay in the end. Not only did he stay, but he also made a trip back as fast as he could to make sure that Xiling and Bai Ling had really returned to the Soaring Dragon Empire. After he was relieved, he took millions of Starry Sky Corps slaves and left the Soaring Dragon realm in a grandiose manner. This time, Longao really had the intention to kill. In addition to the first and second Starry Sky empires, Longao divided more than 7 million Starry Sky Corps slaves. From the 3rd to the 9th Starry Sky empires, he arranged more than 1 million Starry Sky Corps slaves for each empire. This number may be a drop in the bucket for the most powerful Starry Sky empires, but the power of the Starry Sky Corps slaves was not to be underestimated. More than 1 million Starry Sky Corps slaves were enough to bring a lot of trouble to the Starry Sky empires. The biggest reason why Longao did not choose the first and second Starry Sky empires was that both empires had peak Starry Sky immortals. This was definitely not a good thing for the Starry Sky Corps slaves. Chapter 2599. Longao didn't personally oversee the situation, as he had called over his big brother, Long Ying. The only other person who could control the corpse slave army was his big brother. Seventh brother, leave this to me. Be careful. With regards to his own big brother, Longao was naturally at ease. He didn't say anything else. It was still the same sentence. Time could not be wasted for the current Longao. Would Longao go to Jianling Mountain? The answer was no. Even after dealing with the corpse slave army, Longao still didn't go to Jianling Mountain. Instead, he found an extremely secluded plain, a secluded valley, and a secluded cave as quickly as possible. What was Longao going to do? Normally, Bai Ling's origin Jianling would be in danger, as no one knew when the Oracle would be able to lock onto the origin Jianling. If the Oracle really did control the origin Jianling, it would be equivalent to controlling Bai Ling's life and death. Regarding this point, how could Longao not know? Even so, Longao still didn't choose to go to Jianling Mountain immediately. The real reason? Longao knew that it would be impossible for him to defeat the divine mathematician and the others even if he rushed to the Spirit Sword Mountain in his current situation. In fact, it would be impossible for him to defeat them. Since breaking through to the Starry Sky Immortal Realm, his cultivation had been stagnant. No matter how hard he tried, the result was the same. He had to break through. After devouring Gongsun Ao's primordial spirit, Longao had an intuition that he wasn't far from the peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm. If he cultivated normally, this step alone would take many years. The devouring power, on the other hand, required a huge amount of power. If the devouring power wasn't right, then it would be impossible to break through to the Starry Sky Immortal Realm. However, the current situation was very dangerous. The stronger he was, the more advantageous it would be for him. His only chance was to devour the primordial spirits of the 6-peak Starry Sky Immortals. After killing the 6-peak universe undyings from the 4th to 9th cosmic empires, Longao did the same thing as before and chose to devour their primordial spirit. If Longao devoured the primordial spirits of 6-peak universe undyings and Gongsun Ao's primordial spirit, it would be equivalent to devouring 7-peak universe undyings. What kind of concept was that? Such a thing had never happened before in the vast starry sky. Killing a few pinnacle universe undyings, apart from universe rulers and half-step universe rulers, no one else seemed to be able to do so, except for Longao. It could be said that Longao was absolutely unprecedented and would never be surpassed in the future. Inside the cave, looking at the 6 primordial spirits floating before him, Longao's expression was very calm. Under normal circumstances, Longao would definitely choose to devour one primordial spirit after another. This was the only way to be safe. But now, Longao definitely wouldn't do that. Although it was safe to devour one primordial spirit after another, it was a waste of time. It could be said that devouring one primordial spirit after another couldn't be compared to devouring 6 primordial spirits at the same time. One would take 1 minute while the other would take 6 minutes. The difference was 6 times. What kind of concept was that? Longao couldn't wait any longer. Bai Ling's Jianling origin was too important, nothing could happen to it. And if he chose to devour 6 primordial spirits at the same time, the time would be reduced by 6 times, but the difficulty would be much higher. Precisely because of this, Longao didn't hesitate and chose to devour 6 primordial spirits at the same time. He chose to give up on one primordial spirit after another. He took a deep breath. Without hesitation, Longao immediately started devouring the primordial spirits of the 6-peak starry sky undyings. Devouring them all at once was much more time-consuming than devouring one primordial spirit after another. However, since things were already like this, Longao couldn't care about anything else. Having just devoured 6 primordial spirits, Longao was hoping that the Chaos 9-colored lotus would help him refine them. Because if he had devoured Gongsun Ao, it would have taken him a long time to refine them. However, with the help of the Chaos 9-colored lotus, this time would be reduced countless times. Longao had already merged with the Chaos 9-colored lotus, so he could control it. In a few short seconds, the Chaos 9-colored lotus had already begun to help him refine the 6 primordial spirit. This speed allowed him to lock onto them countless times faster. It was precisely because of the protection of the chaotic 9-colored lotus that Longao was not worried at all. Strictly speaking, he was now truly immortal. Not to mention other people or other things, even the starry sky ruler could not kill him. They could only suppress and seal him by force. Jianling Mountain. As time passed, several days passed in the blink of an eye. He'd thought that he would be able to lock onto Bai Ling's Jianling origin Jianling in the shortest time possible, but after so many days, he still hadn't found it. Even he himself couldn't divine it. As for the reason, Master God Diviner knew why. First, he hadn't mastered the primordial chaos power within the stone tablet. He had only grasped a tenth of it. As for the rumors circulating outside, they were all exaggerated by countless times. Second, Bai Ling's origin Jianling Mountain wasn't the only origin Jianling on Jianling Mountain. Xilinx's origin Jianling was no longer there. However, for so many years, Xilinx's origin Jianling had been there all along. It would definitely interfere with his calculations. Master God Diviner knew that trying to lock onto Bai Ling's Jianling origin Jianling would be very difficult. Although Jianling Mountain didn't seem very large, it was filled with layers upon layers of space. It would take a very long time to find it. However, as time passed, Master God Diviner gradually began to feel less worried. He was certain that if Longao found out about this, then even if he couldn't control Bai Ling's origin Jianling, he would still come here. As long as Longao dared to show up, he would be able to lock onto the space around him. When that happened, Longao would be dead beyond the shadow of a doubt. This time, no matter what happened, he had to kill Longao. He couldn't let Longao escape again. In the end, Master God Diviner was still very afraid. He didn't know what this variable Longao would become in the future. If he really did become a threat to him, then he wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. Yidugu and the others didn't give up. They continued to lock onto Bai Ling's origin Jianling. Once Bai Ling's origin Jianling was devoured, it was obvious what that meant. Chapter 2600. Everyone wanted to devour Bai Ling's origin Jianling. Whether it was the divine mathematician or the others, they were very curious in their hearts. Because according to normal circumstances, if Longao knew about this, then there was no doubt that he would definitely come at the fastest speed. But what happened? After so many days, Longao still hadn't shown up. What was going on? It didn't seem like Longao's usual behavior. The only explanation was that Longao didn't know about this. If they couldn't get Longao to come, then everything would be nonsense. Master Clairvoyant's real target was Longao, not Xiling or Bai Ling. If Longao didn't come, then what was the point of controlling Bai Ling's origin Jianling? It wasn't worth it to fall out with Xiling for no reason. But it was too late to regret now. He could only hope that Longao would know about this and come as soon as possible. Jianling Mountain. Longao's cultivation had broken through to the peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm, but the price was that he had devoured 7 peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm primordial spirit. What did that mean? If he could refine all 7 primordial spirits into a Starry Sky Corpse slave, then he could kill anyone under the half-step Starry Sky ruler realm. If that was the case, Longao was confident that he could kill all the peak Starry Sky immortals of the first and second Starry Sky empires. The first Starry Sky Empire had 4 peak Starry Sky immortals, and the second Starry Sky Empire had 3. According to the previous situation, he couldn't deal with these so-called peak Starry Sky immortals. But now? Swallowing 7 primordial spirits didn't go to waste. His cultivation base finally broke through to the peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm. Even if he didn't refine himself into a Starry Sky Immortal Realm corpse slave, Longao was still full of confidence. Relying on his own strength, he could fight 1 against 4 or 3 and kill all the peak Starry Sky immortals of the 2 great Starry Sky empires. 1 step forward in cultivation, but the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. For Longao, the difference in strength between Starry Sky Immortal and peak Starry Sky Immortal was too great. They were not on the same level. His original plan was to kill all the peak cosmic rulers of the first and second cosmic empires before heading to Jianling Mountain. In the end, Longao was still worried. Looking at the Jianling Mountains in the distance, Longao knew that he could not fight head-on. He could only use his wits. Everyone in Jianling Mountain was either a space dominator or a half-step space dominator. Even if he broke through the limit of space undying, the gap between him and these people was still huge. Longao was now able to contend against a half-step Starry Sky ruler, but it was impossible for him to kill a half-step Starry Sky ruler. Not to mention Longao, even the Oracle couldn't do it. Although the mystic realm wasn't as strong as the primal chaos stone tablets, its power was still there. He wouldn't deal with Master God Diviner and the others. He only had one goal in mind, and that was to take away Bai Ling's origin Jianling. What should he do? Longao knew very well that as soon as he showed himself, the Oracle and the others would lock onto the space around him. When that time came, he wouldn't be able to enter the primal Chaos Palace. Not to mention taking away the origin Jianling, he didn't even know if he could leave alive. As Longao's cultivation broke through the limit of space undying, the Space Dominator would be able to lock onto the space around him and prevent him from entering the primal Chaos Palace. As for the half-step Starry Sky ruler, according to the previous situation, 3 or more half-step Starry Sky rulers would be able to lock onto Longao's space and prevent him from entering the primal Chaos Palace. But now, the situation was completely different. According to Longao's guess, if they wanted to lock onto the space around him, they would need at least 6 or more half-step Space Dominators. As for how many they could reach, he wasn't sure. The situation was very critical. Longao could clearly sense that the Oracle and the others were still in Jianling Mountain. If they were still there, he wouldn't be worried. Instead, he was really worried that the Oracle and the others weren't in Jianling Mountain, which meant that things were really troublesome. Longao knew that if the Oracle and the others had already taken control of Bai Ling's origin Jianling, then there was no doubt that it was useless to continue staying here. After all, their real target was him, not Xiling or Bai Ling's origin Jianling. It was precisely because the Oracle and the others hadn't taken control of Bai Ling's origin Jianling that they had to stay here. After thinking about it, he still couldn't come up with a good idea. He couldn't wait any longer. Outside Jianling Mountain, seeing Longao suddenly appear, the Oracle and the others were very surprised, but they had already thought of something. According to Longao's character, his wife's origin Jianling would decide her life and death. If he didn't come, once the origin Jianling fell into their hands, Bai Ling would die without a doubt. How could Longao give up on Bai Ling? It was a complete joke. Longao, you finally showed up. The Oracle seemed to have everything under control with a faint smile. Gongsun he and the others looked at Longao with murderous eyes. If it weren't for the Oracle's order, they would have attacked already. How could they be so quiet? Oracle, don't you think it's beneath your dignity to do this? What Longao was implying was that the Oracle was being a bit too shameless. Although he didn't say it explicitly, the Oracle and the others were no fools, and could understand what Longao was implying. The Oracle chuckled, as if he didn't care at all. As far as he was concerned, as long as he could kill Longao, he didn't mind doing something a bit more shameless. After all, he was starting to fear Longao. If it were anyone else, he wouldn't have done something like this. After all, he was the Oracle. For countless years, Longao was the only person the Oracle had ever divined to be a threat to him. It was no wonder he was so nervous. Not even the other sovereigns of the starry sky were so nervous. Cut the weeds and pull up the roots to prevent future trouble. Longao, we're both smart people, so I won't beat around the bush. My main target is you, and I have no interest in Bai Ling's origin Jianling. The God Diviner didn't say anything else, but the meaning behind his words was clear. Longao knew exactly what Master God Diviner was implying, and inwardly chuckled coldly. The more Master God Diviner acted like this, the more certain he was that there was no way he could lock onto Bai Ling's origin Jianling. Otherwise, he wouldn't be acting like this. Longao, as long as you surrender, I'll leave Mount Jianling, and no one else will come to Jianling Mountain. What do you say? Master God Diviner definitely had the power to do that. Who would dare to disobey him? Chapter 2601. Master God Diviner's power was clear for all to see. Unless it was a ruler of the starry sky who had grasped primal chaos energy, no one would dare to oppose him. Regarding this point, Longao naturally did not have the slightest doubt. However, he didn't care. Master God Diviner, I can promise you that as long as you leave the Jianling Mountain, I'll willingly be suppressed by you. How can I trust you? Blood oath? Longao didn't hesitate. He immediately swore a blood oath. At first, Longao had thought that once his cultivation base broke through to the starry sky immortal realm, he would have a chance to take back Bai Ling's core Jianling. But now, things didn't seem so good. Master God Diviner was clearly trying to deal with him. Whether it was a head-on clash or a trap, it would be impossible for him to take back Bai Ling's core Jianling. Longao wouldn't let anything happen to Bai Ling, so he couldn't allow the core Jianling to fall into his opponent's hands. Master God Diviner was shocked. Yi Dugu and the others were also shocked. If Longao was willing to be suppressed, then it would be impossible for him to make a comeback. Was Longao playing tricks again? Master God Diviner smiled and said, Longao, I'll trust you this time. Starting now, as long as you are willing to be suppressed by me, no one else is allowed to enter the Jianling Mountain. Master God Diviner and the others all swore blood oaths. Longao turned and left. Master God Diviner and the others didn't hesitate. They also turned and left. In just a short while they had all vanished without a trace. No matter how unwilling Bai Jing and the others were, Master God Diviner had already swore blood oaths, and they had also swore blood oaths. They could only compromise. Longao, Master God Diviner, and the others all headed toward the martial heaven continent. As for Jianling Mountain, other than Master God Diviner and Longao, no one else knew about it. As for the Jianling Mountain, the vast starry sky still did not know about it. Otherwise, it would have shaken the entire starry sky. Tianwu Continent. If it was in the past, the Sky Martial Continent was an unknown plane. But now, the situation was completely different. Everybody knew that there was a ruler of the starry sky in the martial heaven plane, the godly mathematician. The God Diviner didn't continue hiding the martial heaven continent. But even so, no one dared to take even half a step inside. Unless they were tired of living, they wouldn't dare to enter. Clairvoyant, let's begin. Since he had already made a blood oath, it was impossible for him to go back on his word. Longao knew very well how serious the consequences of breaking a blood oath were. For Bai Ling, not to mention being suppressed, even if he died, he would not even frown. Master God Diviner wasn't in a hurry to deal with Longao. The reason was simple. Longao had a lot of secrets on him. If he were to kill Longao at this time, although he could obtain other things from Longao, he might lose something very important. He would suppress him first and deal with him later. To be safe, Master God Diviner had added the seals of Yidugu, Bai Jing, and the others. That wasn't all. Master God Diviner had also gathered the energy of heaven and earth. That way, unless the ruler of the starry sky personally acted, no one in the starry sky would be able to break the seal. As for Longao, it would be even more impossible for him to break the seal on his own. Unless he refined the primal chaos tablet and became the ruler of the starry sky, it would be even more impossible. Forcibly suppressed. Father, why don't we take advantage of this opportunity to kill Longao in one fell swoop? Yidugu couldn't figure it out. If you cut the grass without removing the roots, it would grow again when the spring breeze blew. Since his father had divined that Longao was a variable, why didn't he just kill him? That way, he and the others wouldn't have to worry about the consequences. Not to mention Yidugu, even Bai Jing and the others were also very curious. They didn't know why the divine mathematician didn't kill Longao since he had already suppressed him. Based on the previous battles, Longao must have obtained some heaven-defying treasure that allows him to achieve an undying body. Even I can only suppress him, but not truly destroy him. I can't even send him into the cycle of reincarnation. Hearing Master Godly Mathematician's words, Bai Jing and the others finally remembered that Longao was indeed immortal in the previous battle. However, they had never thought that Longao was immortal, so they didn't think too much about it. It was hard to believe that even Master God Diviner couldn't kill Longao, or even send him into the cycle of reincarnation. Lord Ruler, I wonder what treasure Longao obtained that allows him to achieve an undying body. They were very curious. There were countless treasures in the universe, but they had never heard of such a heaven-defying treasure. Master God Diviner shook his head. I don't know. Longao is too strange. This treasure should be. Master God Diviner didn't continue. The others were very curious. Just because they didn't know didn't mean that Master God Diviner didn't know either. What was going on? Longao has been sealed. Your mission is complete. You may leave. Everyone cursed inwardly. It was obvious what Longao's treasure meant. If they could take it for themselves, it would be incredibly powerful. It would be comparable to the primal chaos steels, or perhaps even more powerful. But since Master God Diviner had already said so, how could they possibly stay? That would be suicidal. Left with no other choice, they left. What a despicable, shameless master god diviner. They had helped him seal Longao, but had gotten nothing in return. If Longao had died, they might have been able to ask. But the problem was that Longao had only been sealed, not killed. Unless something unexpected happened, Master God Diviner wouldn't want to give them the treasure. Shameless. The more they thought about it, the angrier they got. If it had been anyone else, Bai Jing and the others would have already attacked. Master God Diviner was the only exception. Even if they all joined forces, they still wouldn't be a match for him. In addition to Master God Diviner, there was also Yi Dugu, who had already consumed the primal chaos steels. If nothing unexpected happened, Yi Dugu would be able to assimilate the steels and become the Lord of the Stars. In that case, Master God Diviner and Yi Dugu would be two Lords of the Stars. What did that mean? Because of that, no one dared to provoke Master God Diviner. Even if he couldn't kill them, he could still suppress them. He could even send them into the cycle of reincarnation. If that happened, and the arcane pocket realm left the body, the consequences would be too horrible to contemplate. That was what everyone feared the most. Chapter 2602. The Martial Heaven Continent. Father, Longao has already been suppressed. Since he has such a treasure, what should we do? Yi Dugu finally understood why Longao had been so willing to be suppressed. He had been prepared for this for a long time. He had an undying body. Even his father was unable to truly kill him. He couldn't even send him into the cycle of reincarnation. If he hadn't personally heard it from his father, it would have been hard to imagine. For now, I can't think of a better plan. However, since Longao has been suppressed by us, he won't be able to break out of the seal for hundreds of millions of years. Hundreds of millions of years was enough to come up with a good plan to deal with Longao. Was that really the case? If it was before, Yi Dugu would definitely scoff and not put Longao in his eyes. But now, the situation was completely different. Longao was just as his father had said. He was too great, so great that it was hard to believe. He and his father didn't know just how many secrets Longao had. Dugu, starting now, you and I can't casually leave this plane. Father, what's wrong? Did his father care about others? That was a joke. Yi Dugu naturally knew what his father's power meant. In the vast starry sky, other than the white-robed girl who had forced his father back, no one else was a match for him. How could the God Diviner not know what his son was thinking? Longao's secrets will quickly spread. I don't know if the others have refined the primal chaos tablets yet. If they come, we'll be in a passive position. So that was the case. Understood. The Martial Heaven Continent had been sealed once more. The God Diviner was completely confident that even if the others refined the primal chaos tablets and became rulers of the starry sky, they wouldn't be able to lock onto the Martial Heaven Continent's position in a short time. The news that Longao had been suppressed by the God Diviner and the others had already spread throughout the starry sky. It was a complete shock. Ever since Longao had entered the starry sky, he had been counterattacking. No matter who he encountered, not even the 9 starry sky empires, Longao had never been suppressed. What was going on this time? He couldn't figure it out. He really couldn't figure it out. The news of Longao being suppressed caused an incomparable shock. Although everyone had already guessed this result, there were still many people who felt sorry for Longao. According to Longao's talent and potential, he believed that given time, Longao would definitely grow to a terrifying level. But now there was no chance. A starry sky ruler, an expert who had devoured primal chaos tablets, and 11 half-step starry sky rulers had joined forces to suppress Longao. Could Longao break out of the seal? There was no question about the answer. Soaring Dragon Empire. Of course, Bai Ling and Xiling had already received the news. Bai Ling blamed herself to the extreme, but in the end she was stopped by Xiling. Whether it was Xiling or Bai Ling, they did not tell their families the news. As for Longing, a few people still knew about it. They were calm enough. Xiling and the others knew that even if they went to the Martial Heaven continent now, not only would they be unable to help Longao break out of the seal, but they would also be suppressed by the God Diviner. If that really happened, Longao wouldn't even have a chance. Big sister, what should we do now? Bai Ling seemed to be on the verge of tears. Longao had already been suppressed by the God Diviner and the others. Who knew whether or not they would help? Every day they didn't save her brother Longao would be a day of unease. Xiling also felt very heavy and helpless. She knew what this meant. If they didn't handle this well, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, Xiling didn't seem the slightest bit worried. If even she was worried, then Bai Ling would be even more helpless. Bai Ling, don't worry. I heard from Longao that he has already merged with the primal chaos 9-colored lotus. Furthermore, he has reached a state of endless circulation. Let alone an ordinary person, even the God Diviner wouldn't be able to kill Longao. He wouldn't even be able to send Longao into the cycle of reincarnation. It wasn't just Xiling who knew about this. Even Bai Ling and Yue knew about this. It was precisely because of this that they weren't so worried. However, even so, Bai Ling was still worried. That was because this time, the one suppressing Longao was the God Diviner. It would be a lie to say that she wasn't worried. Sister, I don't need to say more. You should know Brother Long's situation better than I do. No matter what, I have to save Brother Long, even if I have to pay with my life. I know that. However, before we act, we have to go to Jianling Mountain and retrieve your origin Jianling. Otherwise, this matter will be troublesome in the future. Bai Ling didn't act rashly. She knew that even if she acted rashly, not only would she be unable to help Brother Long, but she would also lose more than she could gain. Xiling and Bai Ling didn't hesitate either. They immediately left the soaring dragon realm and rushed to Jianling Mountain as fast as they could. They arrived at the origin Jianling smoothly. The God Diviner had already sworn a blood oath that he would never step foot into the Jianling Mountain again. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Bai Ling to retrieve her origin Jianling. Bai Ling was filled with regret. She had wanted to retrieve her origin Jianling before, but Xiling and Longao kept persuading her that it would be more appropriate to place her origin Jianling in the Jianling Mountain. It was precisely because of this that Bai Ling didn't retrieve her origin Jianling, which gave the God Diviner an opportunity to take advantage of her. The more she thought about it, the more she regretted it. The more she thought about it, the guiltier she felt. If it weren't for her, Brother Long would definitely be fine. It was all because of her. If she could, she would rather be the one in trouble instead of Brother Long. However, now that she had successfully obtained the origin Jianling, Bai Ling had no intention of returning to the soaring dragon realm. No matter what happened, no matter how great the price she had to pay, she would help Brother Long break out of the seal, even if she had to pay with her life. If it were any other matter, Xiling would definitely stop her. However, she knew that if she stopped her sister from saving Longao, the consequences could be imagined. She definitely wouldn't do such a thing. Xiling also hoped to save Longao, so he accompanied Bai Ling and didn't return to the soaring dragon realm. However, when the two of them were about to lock onto the Sky Martial Continent, they angrily discovered that the Sky Martial Continent was nowhere to be found. It seemed that the God Diviner already knew that they wouldn't let it go, so he hid the Sky Martial Continent. If Xiling could recover his peak strength, he would definitely be able to lock onto the location of the Sky Martial Continent. However, the current situation was completely different. Not to mention entering the Sky Martial Continent to save Longao, according to the current situation, he couldn't even lock onto the location of the Sky Martial Continent. Chapter 2603. The longer this dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for Brother Long. Bai Ling naturally knew the severity of the situation, but Master Godly Mathematician would definitely be prepared. She felt helpless. She was even more anxious. Sister, don't tell me we can't do anything? She sighed deeply. How could Xiling not know his sister's worries? Helpless, Xiling thought about it and said helplessly, Master Godly Mathematician's strength is far above mine. If I could refine the Primal Chaos Tablet, perhaps I could find the location of the Sky Martial Plane. But now, at this point, Violet's spirit did not continue, but the meaning of her words was very clear. The vast starry sky was boundless. Bai Ling didn't know how to find the location of the Sky Martial Plane. There was no such thing as an airtight wall. Gradually Long Haosher, Long Yi and his wife, Yu Yin, Aoshua Yen and the others all knew that Long Ao had been suppressed by Master Godly Mathematician. The entire Soaring Dragon Empire was shaken because everyone knew what this meant. And the result? Without a doubt, everyone was furious and impatient. They couldn't wait to go to the Sky Martial Continent and help Long Ao break out of the seal. But in the end, they were stopped by Long Haosher and Long Ying. Long Haosher and Long Ying were very calm because they knew that they had to be calm at a time like this. Otherwise, they might not be able to save Long Ao. Instead, it would delay the important matter. They had to remain calm. Soaring Dragon Empire. Within a huge palace. Everyone present had grave expressions. Yu Yin, Aoshua and Yen were worried to the extreme. But Bai Ling and Xiling were missing. Everyone was curious. They didn't know where the two of them had gone. But no matter what, nothing was more important than Long Ao's matter. So no one cared. Grandfather, we can't wait any longer. Brother Long's life and death are unknown. How can we wait here? Aoshua stood up. Even now, she couldn't understand why her grandfather didn't want her to go to the Sky Martial Continent. Long Haosher was more anxious than anyone else. But at this moment, how could he be anxious? Aoshua, sit down first. Not daring to disobey, Aoshua finally sat down obediently. According to my guess, since Ao has been forcibly suppressed by the God Diviner, then the God Diviner will definitely seal the Martial Heaven Continent. Even if we want to go, I'm afraid we won't be able to find the location of the Martial Heaven Continent. Many people had thought of this point, but they were unwilling to believe it. How could Aoshua not know? Grandpa, what should we do now? Before Long Chong could say anything, Long Chong suddenly spoke. Don't worry, Big Brother has already merged with the 9-colored Chaos Lotus, and has reached a state of endless circulation. Therefore, even the God Diviner won't be able to destroy Big Brother. There were no less than 5 people in the hall who knew about this. Knowing was one thing, and worrying was another. No one knew what would happen. If they were unlucky, the consequences would be unimaginable. Long Chong, can you sense your big brother's aura? Long Chong's status had undergone a heaven-toppling transformation. Other than being Long Ao's brother, Long Chong had also devoured the Primal Chaos Tablet. If nothing unexpected happened, he would definitely become the ruler of the starry sky in the future. Practically everyone in the hall had devoured the Primal Chaos Tablet, but they hadn't truly refined it. Otherwise, who would dare provoke the Soaring Dragon Empire? That would be suicide. However, it was still the same thing. Refining a Primal Chaos Tablet wasn't an easy task. Otherwise, the Star Sky rulers wouldn't have been stuck at this point in their attempt to refine another Primal Chaos Tablet. Xiling, Bloodseeker, and the others were also depressed. Grandpa, ever since I devoured the Primal Chaos Tablet, I've been separated from Big Brother. Everyone understood Long Chong's meaning. Long Haosher sighed deeply inside, but his expression was still indifferent. He knew that at this time, he was the backbone of the Empire. He couldn't fall into chaos. If the Empire fell into chaos, it would be completely over. The entire hall fell silent. No one spoke. Everyone's expression was solemn. At this time, no one knew what to say. Time passed quietly. About 2 hours later. You're dismissed. Remember, without my orders, no one is allowed to take half a step out of the Empire. Those who disobey will be expelled from the Long family. Yes, no matter how worried they were, no one was willing to go against their grandfather's orders. The Empire was already in chaos and they couldn't add to it. Somewhere in the vast starry sky. Father, if you don't go, I'll go save Longao. Yun Qian was also worried to the extreme. She'd already guessed that the divine mathematician and the others would deal with Longao, but she hadn't expected them to be so despicable and shameless. They'd actually used Bai Ling to threaten Longao and sealed him. Otherwise, even the divine mathematician and the others wouldn't have been able to forcibly suppress Longao. Qian. Hearing her father's voice was a bit cold, Yun Qian's heart was also shocked, and finally, she abruptly stopped and said in a very worried voice, Father, don't tell me you are not willing to help me save Longao? Yun Lu sighed deeply in his heart. How could he not know that his precious daughter really liked Longao? Otherwise, Qian wouldn't have acted like this. If it had been someone else, with his strength and backing, he could have dealt with it in a matter of minutes. Only this matter. Especially when the other party was the divine mathematician. Yun Lu said, Qian, Father knows your feelings, but you have to remember that the divine mathematician is acting this time. Before Yun Lu could finish, Yun Qian said, Father, you and the divine mathematician have already made an agreement. If he acts now, it's completely against the agreement. Yun Qian couldn't figure out why her father didn't act when the agreement had already been made. Was her father afraid of the divine mathematician? That was a bit ridiculous. Others might not know her father and his backing, but how could she not know? The three rulers of the starry sky could completely ignore the existence of the divine mathematician. If that was the case, why didn't her father act? How could Yun Lu not know what Qian was thinking in her heart? He helplessly said, I will make a trip. However, Qian, I am not completely confident whether I will be able to rescue Longao. However, you must promise me that no matter what happens, you cannot act recklessly. Otherwise, I will definitely not intervene. Chapter 2604. In the vast starry sky. Yun Lu and the others could naturally lock onto the Martial Heaven Continent's location, but they didn't enter. Since you're here, please. Hearing Master God Diviner's words, Yun Lu's group of 3 entered in a single file. In the outer sea. Within the Crystal Palace. May I ask why Brother Yun has come? Yun Lu asked despite knowing the answer. Yun Lu didn't seem to mind. His voice was cold. Master God Diviner, we agreed that you wouldn't attack Longao. But now, you've broken that agreement. It seems you don't place me in your eyes. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't angry. Master God Diviner smiled. Yun Lu, we did have an agreement. However, this time, it wasn't me who attacked. It was Longao who asked to be suppressed. Humph, if you hadn't threatened him, would Longao have acted like this? He was truly shameless. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone this shameless. As the ruler of the starry sky, Master God Diviner's shamelessness had reached an unparalleled level. Master God Diviner continued to smile, not taking it to heart. You can leave now. Master God Diviner seemed to have become a different person. The deaths of the 3 rulers of the starry sky had intimidated him. But now, the situation was completely different. If he left just like this, how would he explain it to his daughter? Yun Lu also didn't know why his daughter cared so much about Longao. However, he knew that this was the first time in many years that his daughter liked a boy. Master God Diviner, there is no enmity between us. Break the seal and let Longao go. Yun Lu waved his hand. Master God Diviner was clearly impatient. He smiled. Yun Lu, you should know why I made an agreement with you. Don't think that I'm afraid of you. If this continued, the only result would be a complete falling out with the other side. Both sides knew what it meant to have a falling out with the Starry Sky ruler. That was why. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would be so shameless as to fight to the death. Yun Lu suppressed his anger. Master God Diviner, if we fight, it won't do either of us any good. Yun Lu's meaning was clear. If it were any other matter, Master God Diviner wouldn't have dilly-dallied. After all, Yun Lu had 3 rulers of the Starry Sky on his side. Only Longao. Yun Lu, to tell you the truth, I have already calculated that Longao's variable is completely aimed at me. If I don't get rid of this child... Master God Diviner's voice suddenly grew colder. If you were in my place, what would you do? Since the divine mathematician's words had already reached this point, Yun Lu naturally knew that the divine mathematician would not let Longao off. But when he thought of it, God Diviner was. Unless it was a last resort, Master Clairvoyant wouldn't go back on his word. After all, he knew better than anyone what it meant to offend 3 rulers of the stars. Give up? Other than Qian or liking Longao, Yun Lu himself also admired Longao very much. Otherwise, he would absolutely not have come so easily. Master God Diviner, aren't you worrying too much? Even if Longao's talent is extraordinary, as long as he doesn't devour a primal chaos tablet. He's already devoured a primal chaos tablet. Ah, how was that possible? Yun Lu, do you really think I'm afraid of Longao? Longao has already devoured a primal chaos tablet, but I didn't notice. If you were in my place, I'm afraid you would do the same. Yun Lu finally understood why Master God Diviner was in such a hurry to destroy Longao. It was because Longao had already devoured a primal chaos tablet. Not devouring a primal chaos tablet and not devouring a primal chaos tablet were 2 completely different concepts. Yun Lu finally understood why Longao hadn't devoured a primal chaos tablet and instead given it to God Diviner. Most likely, devouring a primal chaos tablet was the main reason. Even so, Yun Lu was still very grateful to Longao. After all, a primal chaos tablet was different from other things. If it were anyone else, they would definitely keep such a heaven-defying treasure for themselves. How could they just casually give it to someone else? Moreover, according to God Diviner, Longao clearly didn't have any interest in her. Master God Diviner, as long as you release Longao, I can guarantee you that Longao won't do anything to you in the future. How about it? Would Master God Diviner choose to believe him? What a joke. Master God Diviner wasn't an idiot. Who could be so sure about something like this? It was utter nonsense. Yun Lu, this matter ends here. If you insist on doing this, then there will only be one result between us. Life and death. Master God Diviner was already very clear. Yun Lu wasn't an idiot. How could he not know? Sneering in his heart, Master God Diviner didn't care at all. So what if the other side had 3 rulers of the Starry Sky? As long as they didn't control the primal chaos tablet, they couldn't suppress him. Master God Diviner wasn't the only one who knew this. Yun Lu also knew this. An agreement was bullshit. He had thought that since Master God Diviner had made an agreement with him, Master God Diviner would abide by it. He had never imagined that Master God Diviner would be so shameless. Even he couldn't do anything about it. Now that things had come to this, what could he do? He was in a difficult position. Yun Lu knew very well that even if he acted now, he wouldn't be able to save Longao. Other than completely falling out with Master God Diviner, there wouldn't be any other result. Master God Diviner didn't speak. Yun Lu didn't speak either. Yi Dugu and the 2 rulers of the Starry Sky also didn't speak. For a time, the Crystal Palace fell into silence. Yun Lu, although Longao's talent is precious, you don't have to do this. Don't interfere in this matter. In the future, I will leave you a share of the primal chaos source. Otherwise, Master God Diviner didn't say anything else, but the meaning behind his words was clear. Master God Diviner had already made up his mind. In order to kill Longao, he would offend anyone, and fall out with anyone. As long as he could kill Longao, everything would be fine. In the end, Master God Diviner was afraid. Considering his own calculations, and considering Longao's growth, Master God Diviner was a bit worried. He didn't fear the Starry Sky Ruler, but he did fear Longao. If word of this got out, no one would believe it. After all, Longao was only a peak Starry Sky immortal. He hadn't even reached the half-step Starry Sky Ruler level, let alone the Starry Sky Ruler level. Patriarch, there's no need for us to fall out with Master God Diviner over Longao. They spoke through their spiritual sense. The two elders didn't want to fall out with Master God Diviner. After all, they knew better than anyone what this meant. Chapter 2605. How could Yun Lu not know what the two elders were thinking? Fighting to the death with Master God Diviner over a single Longao really wasn't worth it. If it had been anyone else, they wouldn't have cared at all. Only Master God Diviner was in a completely different situation. Was he going to leave just like that? Yun Lu didn't know how to explain this to Qian-er. No matter what, this was the first time in many years that Qian-er had liked a boy so much. As her father, he couldn't bear to see her like this. Master God Diviner didn't say anything. He just watched quietly. Yun Lu, my father doesn't fear you. He just doesn't want to shed all pretense of cordiality with you. Master God Diviner didn't stop him. Yun Lu didn't mind either. Yi Dugu was no longer the same as before. He devoured the primal chaos steel. As long as nothing unexpected happened, he would definitely become the ruler of the stars. Farewell. I won't see you out. Seeing the three of them leave, Master God Diviner let out a long sigh of relief. Although he didn't fear Yun Lu, the three of them were still rulers of the stars. If they really fought, it was hard to say who would win and who would lose. However, Master God Diviner was almost certain that for the sake of a single Longao, Yun Lu wouldn't shed all pretense of cordiality with him even if he beat him to death. Father, as long as the Longao is alive, he'll always be a problem. He's not as good as us. Yi Dugu made a killing gesture. His meaning was clear. There was nothing he could do. Dugu, I know what you mean. However, the reason why Longao dares to ask to be suppressed by me is because he has his own confidence. Like I said, even I can't really destroy Longao. Although he'd already guessed this result, Yi Dugu still wasn't willing to accept it. He'd already suppressed the Longao, but he couldn't destroy the Longao. What was the difference between that and not suppressing him at all? He wasn't willing to accept it. He really wasn't willing to accept it. Father, what should we do now? You're right. No matter what happens, we have to do everything we can to destroy the Longao as quickly as possible. Otherwise, the Longao's future variables are too great. Yi Dugu did not speak. Since his father had said that even his father couldn't kill Longao, then he really couldn't think of any other way to kill Longao. The God Diviner knew exactly what Yi Dugu was thinking. I don't have a solution for now, but Master God Diviner's face grew darker and darker as he looked off into the distance. After leaving the martial heaven continent, Yun Lu and the others quietly stood in the vast starry sky. Clan leader, there's really no need for us to fight to the death with Master God Diviner over one Longao. Patriarch, you have to know what our mission is. If anything happens to you, we won't be able to take responsibility. He waved his hand to stop the two of them from continuing. I know what you mean. How could Yun Lu not know? His heart was filled with helplessness. No matter what, he only had one daughter. Let's go. After thinking for a long time, in the end, Yun Lu chose to give up. Their mission was too important. If they had to sacrifice the entire clan for one Longao, then the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. If it had been anyone else, it would have been fine. But Master God Diviner was a bit troublesome. If this matter was not handled properly, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yun Qian already knew her father's intentions. She definitely wouldn't give up. Yun Qian had already decided that her father wasn't willing to do anything for the sake of the clan. But she was different. Her life and death had nothing to do with the clan. For the sake of the Longao, she could climb a mountain of blades or dive into a sea of flames. If Yun Qian wanted to do something, Yun Lu definitely wouldn't allow it. Helpless, he could only choose to seal her. The difference in power between Yun Qian and Yun Lu was too great. They weren't even on the same level. If Yun Lu wanted to trap Yun Qian, it would be a matter of minutes. The matter of Longao being forcefully suppressed didn't dissipate for a long time. It still shook the entire vast starry sky. Xiling and Bai Ling couldn't lock onto the sky martial continent. In the end, they still chose to return to the soaring dragon realm. Because the two of them knew that if nothing unexpected happened, the people of the soaring dragon realm should already know about the matter of Longao being suppressed. Currently, the soaring dragon realm was in complete chaos. It could be said that Longao was the backbone of the soaring dragon realm, a legendary figure. Now that the backbone was forcefully suppressed, it was hard to imagine what had happened to the soaring dragon realm. Fortunately, the soaring dragon empire had Longao overseeing it. Otherwise, the consequences would be hundreds or even thousands of times worse. No one could lock onto the position of the sky martial continent. Even if they wanted to help Longao break out of the seal, it would be an impossible task. Soaring Dragon Empire. Within a grand hall, all the core members of the upper echelons were gathered here. From Longao to Longao's brothers and sisters, they all had grave expressions. The longer they delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for Longao. Who knew what would happen next? The entire hall was very quiet. No one spoke. No one knew what to do. Yu Yin, Aoshua Yener, and even Bai Ling were worried to the extreme. However, although the four of them had devoured the primal chaos tablets, they hadn't truly refined them. It was impossible to lock onto the position of the sky martial continent. Furthermore, within the soaring dragon empire, no one who had devoured the primal chaos tablets had been able to refine them. In that case, no one could lock onto the position of the sky martial continent. They were unable to help Longao. Longao's mother, Mu Lin, couldn't wait any longer. She stood up and said, "Father, I have to save Aor. I don't dare imagine what the consequences will be if we keep waiting like this." No one said anything. They were all extremely worried about Longao's safety. However, at this time, worrying was useless. They all wanted to help Longao, but they were powerless. Longao sighed deeply and helplessly said, "Even if we can lock onto the position of the sky martial continent, we won't be able to help Aor break out of the seal. At this time, we have to be absolutely calm. Otherwise, not only will we not be able to help Aor, but we might even be more of a hindrance." How could they not know what their grandfather meant? However, even if they knew, so what? They were too worried. This was like knowing that there was a tiger in the mountain, but still going to the mountain. It was the same principle. The four women wanted to say something, but in the end, they forced themselves to endure. At this time, they could only be anxious and worried. There was nothing they could do. They could only hope to find a solution as soon as possible. Chapter 2606. Very helpless. There were even some who felt despair. Bai Jing, Zhu Geming, Gongsun He, Xiafeng, Zhou Bolai, Lu Mu, Kong Xiao, Fang Buping, and Wei Bujing, the 9 half-step starry sky rulers joined forces to suppress Longao and immediately began to lock onto the position of the soaring dragon empire. Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots to prevent future troubles. The 9 half-step starry sky rulers were finally afraid. The reason was simple. According to the divine mathematician, Longao himself had obtained 2 primal chaos tablets. Although Longao himself said that the 2 primal chaos tablets he obtained had left on their own, but the matter was already like this, only ghosts would believe it. If someone in the Soaring Dragon Empire refined the primal chaos tablets and became a starry sky ruler, then the first unlucky ones would be the 9 great starry sky empires. Except for this point. The real reason the 9 wanted to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots was to obtain the primal chaos tablet. It was easy to think about, but to really lock onto it was very difficult. The 9 of them all gathered in the sky martial continent, hoping that the divine mathematician could help them and help them lock onto the position of the Soaring Dragon Empire. The result was, not to mention helping, the divine mathematician didn't even see them. He didn't put them in his eyes at all. Unless it was a starry sky ruler, otherwise, in the vast starry sky, no one could be put in the eyes of the divine mathematician. Except for Longao. They were very angry. So what if they were angry? No matter what, the divine mathematician's strength was there. In desperation, the 9 of them could only choose to leave and rely on themselves to lock onto the position of the Soaring Dragon Empire. The vast starry sky was boundless. Wanting to lock onto a hidden family in the vast starry sky was a bit of a pain in the ass. Sky Martial Continent. Chihua Town. The divine mathematician sealed Longao in the Chihua Town. No one knew whether it was intentional or unintentional. A giant peak stood in the middle of the Chihua Town. The current Chihua Town was no longer the same as before. Because of Longao, the divine mathematician took his anger out on the Chihua Town. Although he didn't destroy the Chihua Town, all the people inside had been expelled. In other words, in the current Chihua Town, only the giant peak was left. No one dared to step forward. The news had long since spread throughout the Martial Heaven continent. The legendary figure of the Martial Heaven continent, Longao, had been suppressed by a supreme expert. For the martial artists of the Tianwu continent, there was no difference between a starry sky cultivator and an existence above it. No one knew what the starry sky ruler was. Time flew by like a shuttle. 300 years passed in the blink of an eye. Unknowingly, Longao had been suppressed by Master God Diviner for 300 years. Gradually, the vast universe began to forget that Longao had been suppressed. The Soaring Dragon Empire had been tortured for 300 years, but no one was able to lock onto the location of the Sky Martial Continent. He was extremely worried. With the Dragon Slayer's senses, everyone knew very well that Longao did not die at all. It could be considered a blessing amidst misfortune. But even so, as long as Longao didn't break the seal, there would be no peace. No one knew what would happen in the future. 300 years later, a white figure suddenly appeared on the Martial Heaven continent. It was none other than the white-robed girl, Songlin. Ever since Songlin had left 300 years ago, she had not appeared again. Songlin's power went without saying. It was unknown how she had locked onto the Martial Heaven continent. With a single step, she vanished without a trace. The Martial Heaven continent had always been Master God Diviner's territory. As soon as Songlin entered, Master God Diviner sensed her. She instantly appeared, blocking Songlin's path. Truly, you can wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. Master God Diviner was delighted to see this white-robed girl appear. She was extremely clear on what Songlin meant. If she could control Songlin, she would definitely be able to obtain the primal chaos energy within the primal chaos stone tablet. Songlin was delirious. Her eyes were empty, and she was expressionless. Let alone Master God Diviner, even others could easily control Songlin. However, Songlin was extremely fast. Even if someone locked onto her, it would be very difficult to control her. Scram? Songlin, who was originally delirious, simply wouldn't have said anything. However, at this moment she coldly spat out 2 words. Scram. If it was anyone else, Master God Diviner definitely wouldn't care about them. Only Songlin was a bit terrifying. It was precisely because of this white-robed girl that she had forced her away. But it had to be known that this white-robed girl was the ruler of the starry sky, and she had even grasped primal chaos energy. Her power was far above her own. Fortunately, she was delirious. Otherwise, even Master God Diviner wouldn't dare to stop her. Before Master God Diviner could react, Song Lin shot forward, her body flickering. In the blink of an eye, she arrived before Master God Diviner. Her attacks seemed weak, but they were terrifying. Even Master God Diviner didn't dare to receive them head-on. He didn't know just how powerful her attacks were. Even so, Master God Diviner still met them head-on. With a bang, Master God Diviner and Song Lin separated. Master God Diviner was shocked, but he was delighted. He could clearly sense that his opponent had suffered a serious injury. She was definitely weaker than him. He was very afraid of the white-robed girl. Because of this, Master God Diviner was looking forward to the primal chaos energy. If he could obtain the primal chaos energy, his strength would be far above the white-robed girl's. The more this was the case, the more he wanted to deal with the white-robed girl and use her to obtain the primal chaos energy in the primal chaos stone tablet. Song Lin's face grew paler. Even so, she didn't hesitate to charge at Master God Diviner. Her speed was extremely fast. Wave after wave of continuous attacks, Master God Diviner was gradually unable to resist. What a terrifying attack power! Fortunately, Song Lin had suffered a serious injury. If she hadn't, the result could be imagined. Master God Diviner was very clear that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. He could take advantage of the white-robed girl's injuries to destroy her and then control her. If the white-robed girl escaped, the consequences would be unimaginable. Master God Diviner couldn't understand. Given the white-robed girl's strength in the vast starry sky, there was no one who could seriously injure her. He didn't know who could do this. To be able to injure the white-robed girl, it seemed that this person's strength was far above his. If he wasn't mistaken, this person should also be a ruler of the starry sky, and a ruler of the starry sky who had obtained the origin power. Chapter 2607 Sky Martial Continent. The figures of the two super-experts flashed continuously, exchanging blows back and forth. They were having a great time fighting. The more they fought, the more fearful they became. The more they fought, the more fearful they became. The divine mathematician was very clear that the white-clothed girl was still unconscious. If she regained her consciousness, she would be even stronger. He could still resist a bit now, but in the future. Thinking of this, the divine mathematician's attacks were getting stronger and stronger. Wave after wave, it was as if they could topple mountains and overturn seas. Wanting to control the white-clothed girl was a bit difficult. What should he do? Even the divine mathematician couldn't think of a better way to deal with the white-clothed girl. If this continued, who knew what would happen? The divine mathematician wasn't a fool. He had already guessed that the white-clothed girl had come for Longao. It was hard to imagine the relationship between the white-clothed girl and Longao. Even the divine mathematician couldn't figure it out. Finally, in order to end the battle quickly, the divine mathematician didn't want to cause any trouble for himself. He directly used the primal chaos stone tablet. The primal chaos stone tablets were divided into 3 grades: elementary, middle, and high-grade primal chaos stone tablet. Before obtaining primal chaos energy, the grade of the primal chaos stone tablet couldn't be distinguished. Because of this, even now, the divine mathematician still didn't know what grade the white-clothed girl had devoured was. The divine mathematician wanted to use the primal chaos stone tablet to suppress the white-clothed girl. It was simply impossible. 2 hours later, Song Lin had already arrived in front of the heaven-piercing mountain. Looking at the mountain in front of her, the divine mathematician's figure descended before her. Without giving the white-clothed girl any chance, the divine mathematician directly attacked. He could already be sure that the white-clothed girl had come for Longao. If the white-clothed girl really broke the seal, then it would be unrealistic to seal Longao in the future. No matter what happened, he couldn't let the white-clothed girl help Longao break the seal. Just as the divine mathematician was attacking with all his strength, the situation suddenly changed. The white-clothed girl with empty eyes and expressionless face, which was Tsang Lin, suddenly regained her consciousness and coldly stared at the divine mathematician in front of her. Seeing that the white-clothed girl had already regained her senses, Master God Diviner was given a fright and came to a halt. He couldn't even defeat the white-clothed girl when she was delirious, let alone now. He did not have the slightest bit of confidence. Who are you? You don't have the qualifications to know. God Diviner, don't think that just because you devoured a high-grade Chaos Stone tablet you can really reach that level. What did that mean? Master God Diviner had already vaguely guessed that the grades of the Chaos Stone tablets were related to strength. But he didn't know what this relationship was. Even if he had already devoured a high-grade Chaos Stone tablet, it didn't seem to be of much use. Devouring and refining a Chaos Stone tablet was one thing, but obtaining the Chaos energy within the Chaos Stone tablet was another. Master God Diviner's face was as dark as could be. The other party seemed to know about him, but he knew nothing about the white-clothed girl in front of him. Master God Diviner, I won't interfere in the grudge between you and Longao. However, I'll tell you one thing. In the future, you'd best not try to take advantage of my delirium to do anything to me. If you do, I can kill you as easily as lifting my hand. Tsang Lin's body suddenly erupted with a terrifying power that instantly enveloped Master God Diviner. It was only for an instant. Master God Diviner could clearly sense the difference between them. It was like the difference between a child and an adult. They weren't existences on the same level. This was the true difference. Strictly speaking, this was the fundamental difference between possessing and not possessing the chaos energy. They weren't existences on the same level. Master God Diviner still didn't know what grade of Chaos Stone tablet the white-clothed girl had devoured was. But the situation was clear now. No matter what grade the white-clothed girl had devoured, it wasn't an existence he could contend against. His face changed again. Even if he didn't want to give up, in the end, Master God Diviner slowly left. How troublesome. Tsang Lin's face was filled with impatience. She wanted to kill Master God Diviner, but for some reason she couldn't really do it. Looking at the towering peak in front of her, Tsang Lin gently slashed out, and the entire peak shattered. Longao walked out from inside. He had been wondering why the seal would suddenly break at this time. So it was because of Tsang Lin. There was no need to say more about Tsang Lin's strength. Many thanks. Longao was sincerely grateful to Tsang Lin. He knew very well that if it weren't for Tsang Lin, he would have been sealed again. As for when he would be able to break out, who knew how long it would take? There was only one way to break out of the seal, and that was to successfully refine the Chaos Stone tablet and become the ruler of the universe. But to refine a neutral Chaos Stone tablet was a bit difficult. Tsang Lin had now regained her consciousness. Her expression was cold as she said, Longao, I know you're curious. Although I can kill Master God Diviner, for some reason I can't. And I won't interfere in the grudge between you and Master God Diviner. You're on your own. Longao had already guessed that if it was possible, Tsang Lin would have already done it. Why wait until now? As for the reason, Tsang Lin didn't say, and Longao didn't ask, because he knew that if Tsang Lin wanted to say, then even if he didn't ask, Tsang Lin would tell him. If Tsang Lin didn't want to say, then even if he asked, it would be useless. He had been sealed for 300 years, and Tsang Lin had only just returned and was heavily injured. In the end, he couldn't help but ask, Tsang Lin, you're injured? Song Lin nodded and said helplessly, "This is a bit troublesome. Even I don't have full confidence." At this point, Song Lin suddenly stopped. Clearly, she did not wish to continue speaking. Longao also did not continue asking. However, he was very curious about who could injure Song Lin in the vast starry sky. Each time Song Lin left, she would return heavily injured. This time, it seemed to be even more serious. However, Longao was still very grateful. Even so, Song Lin had helped him escape at the first opportunity. Longao and Song Lin didn't linger. They immediately left the Martial Heaven continent and rushed back. It had been 300 years, and no one knew how their family was doing. Filled with endless worry, Longao rushed back as quickly as possible. Chapter 2608. Seeing that his family was fine, Longao finally breathed a sigh of relief. The news of Longao breaking out of the seal instantly spread throughout the vast starry sky. Everyone was shocked. The godly mathematician joined forces with 11 half-step starry sky rulers to forcibly suppress Longao. In the end, Longao would probably die or be sealed forever. But the result? In the end, Longao still broke out of the seal. No one knew how Longao did it. Could it be that Longao had also become a starry sky ruler? That seemed a bit too ridiculous. Many people were asking around, wanting to find out what had happened. Gradually, the real truth began to surface. It turned out that the white-robed girl had repelled the godly mathematician to save Longao. What had happened? Hearing this news, everyone was shocked. No one knew why the white-robed girl would save Longao for no reason. Longao was becoming more and more mysterious. Soaring dragon plane. Song Lin had now regained her consciousness. Not just temporarily, but permanently. As for the reason, Song Lin did not say and Longao did not ask. But now that Song Lin had regained her consciousness, she could do whatever she wanted in the vast starry sky. No one dared to do the same. Not to mention ordinary starry sky cultivators, even the godly mathematician and the others did not dare to casually provoke Song Lin. Back peak. The environment was very elegant. There was a pavilion surrounded by flowers and birds. It was very peaceful. Longao, you are very curious about my background, right? Nodding. Longao didn't say anything because he wasn't the only one who was curious. He believed that everyone in the vast starry sky was curious as well. Song Lin had suddenly arrived in the vast starry sky without a sound. Until now, her identity was still a mystery. Longao of course wanted to know who Song Lin was. Intuition told him that Song Lin's background was definitely not simple. But one had to know. Even the God Diviner and the others were only able to refine the Chaos Stone tablets in the vast starry sky. They were unable to truly control the power of chaos within them. Since stepping into the vast starry skies, Longao had come into contact with the true peak powerhouses of the vast starry skies. However, Song Lin was the first starry sky ruler he had seen to have mastered the primal chaos force. Longao, you still don't know my identity, but since I chose you when I was delirious, it seems that fate has brought us together. Maybe you can help me in the future. If there's anything, just say it. I don't need it now. If I need it in the future, I will look for you. Longao didn't say anything more because he didn't know what to say. Longao, I'll be leaving soon. I won't be coming back for a while. He was not surprised at all. Longao had already guessed this outcome. Song Lin had been following him all this time because her mind wasn't clear. Now that Song Lin had completely recovered her mind, how could she possibly continue staying by his side? Take care of yourself. Longao, you should endure the enmity between you and the God Diviner before you have enough strength. If I'm not wrong, your future is limitless. There are some things you don't need to do. I understand. Understanding was understanding, but if things were to happen, then Longao would still do what he should do. There were some things he clearly knew couldn't be done, but he still had to do it. Roughly 2 hours later, Song Lin had already stood up and left. In a short while, she had already left the soaring dragon realm. Longao wasn't too worried about Song Lin. Looking at the entire starry skies, there was no one who could match her, especially now that she had recovered her mind. Within an elegant pavilion. Longao, although Song Lin saved you this time, if nothing unexpected happens, the God Diviner and the others won't let this matter rest. What do you plan to do next? How could Longao not know about Xiling's worries? Xiling, it's fortunate that Song Lin helped me this time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to break the seal and leave the martial heaven continent. Just thinking about it made Longao feel some lingering fear. However, he wasn't worried in the slightest. For Bai Ling, let alone being sealed, even losing his life wouldn't be a problem. Longao, we were careless this time. If we had taken away the core Jianling earlier, the God Diviner wouldn't have had the slightest chance. Longao already knew that Bai Ling had successfully taken back the core Jianling. Only now did he sigh in relief. Xiling, forgive me for asking, but why didn't you and Bai Ling take the core Jianling earlier? This was what Longao was most curious about. Originally, he hadn't wanted to ask, but after thinking about it, he still asked. Longao's intuition told him that this matter wasn't so simple. If it had been anyone else, Xiling definitely wouldn't have said it. However, this was Longao. He helplessly said, Longao, I'm guessing that you've already guessed that the Jianling Mountain is truly extraordinary. Otherwise, my sister and I wouldn't have chosen the Jianling Mountain. As expected, Longao didn't say anything. He just listened. Longao, back then, the 12 of us devoured the Jianling Mountain at the same time, each looking for a place to refine it. After 100 years, my sister and I finally found the Jianling Mountain. Do you know what kind of place it is? Shaking his head, Longao said, I don't. After so many years of searching and sensing, I gradually realized that the Jianling Mountain is indestructible. Longao was very surprised. He knew Xiling's peak power very well. The starry sky dominator's destructive power was terrifying. No place, not even a plane, could withstand such destruction. But the Jianling Mountain, even with Xiling's power, couldn't be destroyed. This in itself showed how terrifying the Jianling Mountain was. Xiling, there's a secret in the Jianling Mountain? That's right. The Jianling Mountain is a big secret. Although I don't know the other secrets, the Jianling Mountain itself is a formation. I'm not a formation master, so I can't tell how powerful the formation is. Formation? If even Xiling was afraid of a formation, Longao could imagine how powerful the Jianling Mountain's formation was. He couldn't wait to see what the formation Xiling was talking about was. Xiling, I want to go to the Jianling Mountain and see what's going on. Xiling wasn't surprised at all. He had already guessed that Longao would go to the Jianling Mountain. But Xiling said, Longao, have you thought about it? Although this place is hidden, it's not a solution. Why don't we move the entire empire to the Jianling Mountain? Once you activate the formation, even the oracle won't be able to take half a step inside. Chapter 2609. Is it that easy to activate? Longao was very curious, because if the formation was that easy to activate, Xiling would have activated it. After so many years, if Xiling had activated it, the previous incident would not have happened. Sure enough, Xiling nodded and said, I have looked for many formation masters, but they could not activate the formation of Jianling Mountain. Not only that, but Jianling Mountain also seems to be suppressing it. At this point, Xiling's face showed obvious fear, and he did not continue. Longao became more and more curious. Xiling, what is going on? I don't know the details, I just have a bad feeling. Xiling nodded. Longao did not go to Jianling Mountain for the time being, because according to Xiling, the matter was definitely not simple. However, the current situation was very special. If they did not solve it quickly, once the clairvoyant master and the others found the location of the soaring dragon realm, the consequences would be unimaginable. Longao, are you going to move? Great Rock, to be honest, I have been sealed by the clairvoyant master for 300 years. If the empire is found by the clairvoyant master, the consequences will be unimaginable. The chaotic Great Rock was very surprised, because the chaotic Great Rock did not know that Longao was suppressed by the clairvoyant master. How could the chaotic Great Rock not know about Longao's worries? The clairvoyant master's strength was needless to say. Even if the clairvoyant master had not mastered the power of chaos in the vast starry sky, he was still a super-existence that could not be ignored. The location is locked? This was the key point. The chaotic Great Rock knew very well that if a safe place could not be locked, then even if they moved, it would be meaningless. I am not sure. Great Rock, I am going to leave this time and take a good look at this place. I will leave the Empire to you. Don't worry. After leaving the Empire to the chaotic Great Rock, Longao could finally relax. Although the chaotic Great Rock's injuries had not healed, the chaotic Great Rock's strength was still there. Unless the Starry Sky ruler came, no one in the vast starry sky could compete with the chaotic Great Rock. Furthermore, even Master God Diviner might not be able to lock onto the position of the Empire in the shortest amount of time. Longao was confident in that. With the Primal Chaos Rock's promise, Longao was relieved. After discussing with Xiling, Longao prepared to leave the Soaring Dragon Empire and head to the Jianling Mountains to see what was going on in the Jianling Mountains. Xiling, what are you doing? Longao, I've been cultivating in Jianling Mountain for countless years, so I'm quite familiar with the situation there. I can help you if I go there. If it were anything else, Longao would definitely refuse. The only exception was the Jianling Mountain incident. Just as Xiling had said, she knew more about the situation in Jianling Mountain than he did. All right. Xiling and Longao did not inform anyone, not even Bai Ling. The fewer people who knew about the Jianling Mountain, the better. The two of them sped up to the extreme. When they arrived at the Jianling Mountain, they had already entered the Jianling Mountain smoothly. No matter what, the Jianling Mountain was Xiling's territory. Longao, can you sense anything? Wait a minute. Without hesitation, Longao immediately released his primordial spirit. If he had gone to the Jianling Mountain alone, it would not have been easy to sense the existence of the formation. However, with Xiling's help, Longao successfully sensed the existence of the formation in just a few minutes. His expression changed again. Longao, what's the matter with you? Longao let out a long sigh of relief and said fearfully, although my formation skills have not reached the true peak, I'm not far from it. Let me ask you, no matter how powerful the formation in the vast universe is, it would not make me so fearful. In fact, I even feel a trace of fear. Fear? What did that mean? Xiling was very clear about the meaning behind Longao's words. An array formation that could cause even Longao to feel fear, it was obvious what it meant. What kind of formation is it? According to what I just sensed, the formation in Jianling Mountain has gathered the power of the vast universe. It even contains the power of chaos. Xiling was not a fool. Of course, he knew what it meant to have the power of chaos in the formation. If what you said is true, then the formation in Jianling Mountain is no small matter. No wonder I couldn't activate it after so many years of searching for so many formation masters. If that was the case, Xiling was even more convinced that if he and Longao could activate the formation, then very few people in the vast universe would be able to step into it. By then, Longao would have less to worry about. Xiling, the formation protecting Jianling Mountain is no small matter. Even the most powerful formation masters may not be able to activate it, let alone me. Xiling thought for a moment and said, Longao, have you ever wondered why there is such a powerful formation in Jianling Mountain for no reason? Longao certainly knew what Xiling meant. Xiling, what do you mean? That's right. For so many years, I've been guessing that the reason there is such a powerful formation protecting Jianling Mountain is because it is sealing something. Longao nodded. He had the same guess. If it was not sealing something, how could there be such a powerful formation for no reason? Xiling, if I can study this formation, it will be of great help to my formation. But we are taking a gamble. If there is really something sealed in Jianling Mountain, once the formation is activated, we will be in a very passive position. How could I not know what you are talking about? Otherwise, I would not have taken action for so many years. Longao, if it was before, I would not have let you do this. But now, the situation is very dangerous. The marvelous mathematician and the 9 great starry empires, including the Dragon Clan and the Massacre Clan, all want to kill you. Even if you can't improve your cultivation, if you can improve your formation skills, then we will not be in such a passive position. God knew how long it would take for the people of the Soaring Dragon Empire to become Starry Sky dominators. As for Longao's breakthrough from the peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm to the half-step Starry Sky Ruler Realm, it wasn't an easy task either. Longao's breakthrough from the peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm to the peak Starry Sky Immortal Realm showed how difficult it was to make a breakthrough. Apart from the above 2 points, there was only one way to deal with the current situation, and that was to improve Longao's formation skills as much as possible. That way, even if Longao killed everyone, he would have the strength to fight back and would not be in a passive position. Xiling's idea was exactly what Longao was thinking. Different situations led to different solutions. Chapter 26:10. Longao, activate the formation. If there are no accidents, we will move the empire. Just in case. Before Longao could finish, Xiling interrupted and continued, even if we are unlucky and encounter danger, we can solve the danger first and then move the empire. He had to admit that Xiling was more daring than him. Gamble. If he won the gamble, then he would have nothing to worry about. If he lost the gamble, he could just leave, and it would have nothing to do with him. In the end, gritting his teeth, Longao nodded and said, "You're right. Different situations require different methods. We don't have much time." After what had happened, Longao knew very well that the enmity between him and the clairvoyant master, as well as the 3 top clans, had reached the point where they could not tolerate each other. It was either you die or I die. In that case, he must not sit still and wait for death. Take the initiative. Both of them were prepared to make a bet. They wanted to open the array formation to try their luck. They wanted to see if they could transfer the empire to another place. However, the biggest problem now was that they didn't know where to start with the array formation of the Sword Spirit Mountain. He felt helpless. More than that, he was depressed. Where should he start? Xiling certainly knew what Longao was thinking, but there was nothing she could do. Although she was the Starry Sky Dominator, she knew nothing about formations and could not help at all. Xiling waited quietly, while Longao began to try his best to find the suppression of the formation, hoping to activate the regret formation of Jianling Mountain. In the eyes of outsiders, including the clairvoyant master, Jianling Mountain could only be found in layers of space, except for Longao. The current Jianling Mountain was not very big in Longao's eyes. With his strength and speed, it would only take him a few minutes to smoothly solve the problem. The result? Nothing. Longao looked around helplessly. He knew why he could not find the suppression of the formation. In the end, it was still Longao's attainments in array formations that had not reached such heights. Longao, is it still not enough? He nodded helplessly. The protective formation of Jianling Mountain is too powerful. I don't know where to start. Ling was not the slightest bit surprised because he had already guessed it. Previously, he had found many array masters. Among them, there were many who were above Longao in the array realm. However, none of them could successfully activate the array formation. This was just the activation. Breaking the formation was far more difficult than activating it. Looks like we can't gamble anymore. Regardless of whether they won or lost the bet, the two of them didn't even have a chance to gamble. Was he going to give up just like that? Longao was unwilling to give up because he knew very well what it meant if he could activate and control this array formation. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If he chose to give it up so easily, how could he face himself? He sighed deeply. Ling, I don't want to give up. I don't want to give up either. Ling certainly knew what the Empire meant to Longao. Especially after he had completely fallen out with the clairvoyant, Longao and the Empire's safety became more and more urgent. Moving the Empire was of utmost importance and could not be delayed at all. It was easy to think about activating and controlling the formation, but it was difficult to actually do it. Ling did not say much because at this time, she did not know what to say. Even Longao could not solve this problem, let alone now. Time flew by quickly. Unknowingly, a whole year had passed. Longao and Ling still hadn't taken even half a step out of the Spirit Sword Mountain. They hadn't chosen to give up in the past 1 year. They had searched everywhere, but they still couldn't think of a good way to activate and control the array formation. Was there any point in continuing to persist? Longao, why don't we leave first? As for the matter of the formation, we can talk about it later. Ling knew very well that even if the two of them continued to stay, it would not make any difference. In this case, it was better to leave now and solve this problem later. Towards Ling's meaning, how could Longao not know? Longao wasn't willing to give up unless he had no other choice. That was because the Sword Spirit Mountain's array formation was very tempting to him. After all, he and the Empire wouldn't have to worry about anything if he could control this array formation. For the Empire, he could give up everything. Thinking of this, Longao shook his head and said, Ling, you have said before that our situation is very dangerous. If we choose to give up at this time, no one knows when the marvelous mathematician and the others will be able to locate the Empire. I don't want any accidents, so I have to control this formation. Again, no one knew when Master God Diviner and the others would lock onto the position of the Empire. Therefore, it was best to be able to control the spell formation as a precaution. That way, he would be able to sit back and relax. In the vast starry sky. Ever since Long Yun left the soaring dragon realm, he had been very careful and had never mentioned his relationship with Longao to anyone. This was because Long Yun had decided that he must rely on his own efforts to achieve something. Now, Long Yun was still a starry sky legend. Since the birth of his mother, he had directly advanced to a starry sky legend. This kind of thing had never happened before. It could be said that Long Yun's talent was even above his father, Longao. But the strange thing was that ever since Long Yun went to the vast starry sky to gain experience, his cultivation had been unable to make a breakthrough. Even after experiencing several life and death situations, he still could not make a breakthrough. Long Yun was very curious because he had always been very confident in his talent. 300 years ago, Long Yun suddenly entered a plane and had not come out yet. Otherwise, the news of Longao being suppressed by the marvelous mathematician would have spread throughout the vast starry sky. It was impossible for Long Yun not to know. If he knew, how could he not help? Long Yun clearly knew that he could not do it, but he would still do it. As for what happened in the plane that Long Yun entered, no one knew. This was because the Starry Sky Corpse demon sent by Longao also entered the plane with Long Yun and disappeared without a trace. Because of the marvelous mathematician's matter, Longao did not take Long Yun's matter to heart. After all, the current situation was very critical. If there was even the slightest mistake, the consequences would be unimaginable. Longao did not want anything to happen to the empire. Because of the marvelous mathematician, no one dared to take half a step into the Jianling Mountain. As for the marvelous mathematician and the others, they did not need to guess that the origin Jianling must have been taken away by Bai Ling. Chapter 26:11. Spring went and winter came. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. 4 years had passed since Longao and Xiling entered Jianling Mountain. In the past 4 years, no matter what Longao thought of, there was no way to successfully open the array, let alone control the array. There were many times when Longao wanted to give up, but when he thought about the safety of his family, he gritted his teeth and persevered. The oracle was too powerful. If no one in the empire could refine the Chaos Tablet and become the ruler of the universe, then there was no doubt that no one could fight against the oracle. Not only that, besides the oracle, there were other rulers of the universe, especially the Blood Demon, who had a deep grudge against him. The best solution now was to control the protective formation of Jianling Mountain. That way, he wouldn't have to worry about anything. Xiling didn't leave. He chose to stay. He knew it was impossible, but he didn't want to give up. Just like that, the two still didn't give up. They resolutely searched for the formation's suppression. Longao, what's going on? My formation skills aren't that high. My intuition tells me that the formation's core is right next to me. It's just that I can't sense it. So that was it. At this moment, Longao was simply depressed to the extreme. He knew very well that even a top formation master might not be able to find the formation's core and open the super formation here. Then what should we do now? If we can simulate Jianling Mountain into my Chaos Palace, then I'll have a way to find the formation's core and open the formation. It was easy to say but difficult to do. It was impossible to enter the primal Chaos Palace from the Sword Spirit Mountain. Longao's intention was very simple. He wanted to borrow the power of the primal Chaos Palace and directly cover the entire Sword Spirit Mountain. When that happened, he might be able to activate the array formation here. As for whether or not it would succeed, that was unknown. You need my help? Xiling knew very well that Longao wouldn't have said that if he didn't need his help. As expected. That's right. He did as he said. The two of them had already wasted too much time. Of course, they hoped to end the battle quickly. In the end, the two of them were still gambling because no one knew what would happen after the formation was activated. Longao communicated with the primal Chaos Palace and released his primordial spirit. As for Xiling, he was continuously transferring power into Longao's body. According to Longao's own strength, it was not enough to do this. He needed the help of a powerful starry sky cultivator. Xiling was the best candidate. Longao was only 50% confident. And the result? In less than a few seconds, Longao was able to cover the entire Jianling Mountain with his power. He was delighted. He knew very well that his success was all thanks to Xiling's help. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to succeed on his own. I found it. Relying on his sensing ability, Longao took a step forward and arrived at a certain place in Jianling Mountain. If it weren't for Xiling's help and the power of the primal Chaos Palace, it would have been impossible to find the array eye. It would have been a fool's dream. Longao, have you thought about it? How could Longao not know what Xiling meant? It was still the same sentence. Activating the formation this time was a gamble. If he won the gamble, his family would be free of worries in the future. Even the marvelous mathematician wouldn't be able to break the formation, and he wouldn't have to worry about the family's safety. If he lost the gamble, no one would know what was under the formation. But strictly speaking, it didn't seem to be a loss for him. After thinking about it, Longao decided to give it a try and see how lucky he was. He took a deep breath. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't worried at all. This was because Longao had already guessed that Jianling Mountain had such a powerful formation seal. It shouldn't be simple. If he was unlucky and something powerful was sealed in Jianling Mountain, he would be in big trouble. But his family was his bottom line. No matter what, nothing could happen to his family. Xiling stared at Longao in front of her as if she wanted to say something. But she knew Longao's character very well. No matter how much she said, it wouldn't make much of a difference. In fact, in Xiling's heart, as long as her sister and Longao were fine, she didn't care about the lives of others. In Xiling's heart, other than loving her sister, she also had other thoughts. But for so many years, Xiling had never expressed her thoughts. They hadn't met yet, so Longao didn't know. Longao didn't make a move for a long time because he had to prepare a foolproof plan. After all, a powerful existence was sealed inside the Spirit Sword Mountain if the seal was broken and the magic array was opened. Then, he would have to reseal the magic array at the first moment. This was very difficult to do. Again, his array formation realm had not reached such a high level. If he made a slight mistake, it would be too late to close the array formation again. 10 minutes later, Longao finally decided to reseal the formation. If it was him in the past, he wouldn't have been able to do it. But now, the situation was completely different. Longao, who had found the formation eye, had full confidence that he could reseal the formation. As for whether he could control the formation, that was still unknown. Longao held the Chaos Axe in his hands and hacked at the formation eye repeatedly. Longao knew clearly that if he didn't use the Chaos Axe and the Chaos 9 axes, he wouldn't be able to break the formation eye. Even with Xiling's help, it would still be the same. Xiling was still channeling energy into Longao's body continuously. With the combined power of two powerful beings, how terrifying was that? Boom, boom, boom. Longao, what should we do now? Xiling knew nothing about formations, so he didn't know how to use his strength. If he were to use his strength blindly, even the clairvoyant wouldn't be able to break the formation eye, let alone the both of them. That was the strength of formations. Longao's face was very dignified, because he never thought that with the help of the power of Purple Spirit, plus the help of the Chaos Axe and the Chaos 9 axes, he still couldn't break the eye of the array. It was a little unbelievable. He knew clearly how strong the combined power of himself and Xiling was. Seems like we're still attacking the wrong spot. I've got to sense it. No matter what, we've got to hit it this time. Chapter 26:12. Xiling nodded his head. If they found the wrong place, all their attacks would be in vain. Longao did not continue attacking. Instead, he covered the eye of the formation with his primordial spirit and sensed it carefully. Time passed by slowly. This time, we have to succeed. Holding the Chaos Axe tightly with both hands, Xiling's power surged into Longao's body once again. With a roar, the Chaos Axe in his hands struck out. Boom. There was a loud noise. It echoed throughout the entire Jianling Mountain. It's finally broken. Xiling and Longao were not excited at all because they did not know what was sealed in Jianling Mountain. They wouldn't believe that there wasn't anything strange about such a powerful super formation even if they were beaten to death. It was still that sentence. Longao was completely gambling this time. The entire Jianling Mountain began to tremble violently. With the eye of the formation as the center, waves of black circles began to expand at an extremely fast speed. Longao and Xiling kept retreating. Their faces instantly turned serious. What was going on? 10 minutes later, the Jianling Mountain stopped trembling. It had completely calmed down. The two of them did not step forward because they could sense that the eye of the formation in Jianling Mountain was a passageway. As for where the passageway led to, they did not know. Longao, if we want to use this formation to protect the Empire, we have to first see what's going on with this passageway. He nodded his head. Longao certainly knew what Xiling meant. If they did not solve this problem, once they moved the Empire, they would not even have the chance to regret if something happened at the other end of the passageway. Let's enter the passageway? That's right. Let's go in and see. Longao was actually very afraid because they did not know what was inside the passageway. If they forced their way in, who knew what kind of danger they would encounter? Xiling, if it can be sealed by such a powerful formation, this passageway must not be simple. Let's not act rashly. Xiling did not say much. Just as the two of them were guessing what was inside the passageway, the situation suddenly changed. The passageway, which had just calmed down, suddenly exploded with a loud bang. Not only Jianling Mountain, but the entire starry sky seemed to be trembling. Seeing everything that was happening before them, the two of them were completely stunned. That was because the passageway that was only slightly taller than a person had expanded by several thousand times, or even several tens of thousands of times in the blink of an eye. What kind of concept was that? Before the two of them could react, a black fog surged out of the tunnel. It was like a huge spider web, buzzing nonstop. What was that? Xiling, come with me. Longao could sense how terrifying the unknown black objects that came out of the tunnel were. If they were alone, they wouldn't be a threat at all, but there were too many of them. It was too terrifying. It continued without end. The unknown object must be a starry sky spirit beast. However, this kind of starry sky spirit beast had never been seen before in the vast starry sky. There were too many of them. Just as countless starry sky spirit beasts appeared in the tunnel, three figures descended from the distance. It was none other than Yunlu and the other two. Looking at the countless unknown objects that came out of the tunnel, Yunlu and the other two's expressions changed completely. They looked on in horror because they knew what was going on. Patriarch, we've guarded it for so many years, but we didn't expect that the tunnel would still be opened. If we don't seal it in time, the consequences will be unimaginable. Let's go. Yunlu and the other two didn't hesitate. With a step, the three of them arrived in front of Jianling Mountain. They ignored the army of black fog and rushed towards the entrance of the tunnel. Before he even arrived, the three chaos stone tablets had already appeared, forcefully blocking the passage. The objects that came out of the tunnel were blocked by the three chaos stone tablet. None of them left the tunnel. The three of them finally heaved a sigh of relief. Even so, the three of them didn't dare to be careless. They immediately separated and began to destroy the unknown objects that came out of the tunnel. The speed of the three of them was limited. After all, the unknown objects that came out were too fast. With their strength and speed, they could only kill half of them at most. The remaining half had already disappeared without a trace. When the three of them returned, they just saw Longao and Xiling guarding the entrance of the passage. Without asking, the three of them instantly knew who was the culprit behind this matter. Anger. Endless anger. Longao, Xiling, what happened? Seeing Yunlu and the other two, regardless of whether it was Xiling or Longao, they were both very shocked. That was because the two of them did not know why the three of them would suddenly descend. Intuition told the two of them that for the three of them to be able to instantly arrive and block the tunnel entrance, they definitely knew about this matter. Since that was the case, there was no point in continuing to hide it. Longao recounted everything that happened previously in full detail. Yunlu and the other two were naturally able to understand Longao's pain after listening to him. After all, the strength of the divine mathematician was there for all to see. If they could obtain the Spirit Sword Mountain's protective array, then the Soaring Dragon Empire would be able to sit back and relax. Uncle Yun, you know about this? Humph, Yun, he snorted and said coldly, how could we not know? We are here to protect this formation. When Xiling came to Jianling Mountain to cultivate, we didn't remove it because we knew that Xiling couldn't break the formation. We didn't expect that you would be able to break it. Ah! Hearing Yunhe's words, the two of them were shocked. Didn't this mean that Yunlu's status and strength were extraordinary? After all, the three of them were star dominators and could set up such a heaven-defying formation. Just thinking about it was terrifying. We didn't do it on purpose. Yunlu stopped Yunhe and said helplessly, "Perhaps this is fate. More than 10,000 years ago, I had already calculated that this channel would be opened by someone, but I didn't expect it to be Longao. No one is to blame. Fate is fate." Intuition told them that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. If it could make the three star dominators act like this, it was obvious that they had lost the gamble. "Uncle Yun, if it's convenient, I would like to ask what is going on." Although Xiling didn't ask, his heart was no different from Longao's. He was very curious. He didn't know what was going on and why the three star dominators would act like this. "Patriarch." Waving his hand, Yunlu smiled helplessly and said, "Things have already come to this. Since Longao opened the channel, it seems that Longao can't escape from fate. In that case, there's no harm in telling you." Chapter 26:13. Xiling and Longao were also curious as to what was going on. Yunhe and Yuntian didn't say anything else. Since the Patriarch had already said so, there was no point in saying anything more. There was an age of chaos in the vast universe. "I'm sure you've heard of it." Xiling and Longao nodded. Of course, they had heard of the Age of Chaos. In the Age of Chaos, astral dominators were everywhere in the vast universe. They weren't as rare as they are now. Longao and Xiling still didn't speak. At that time, a mysterious passage suddenly appeared in the vast universe. Countless unknown spirit beasts rushed in madly. Their numbers were extremely large, and their destructive power was extremely strong. Wherever they went, not even a blade of grass grew. Could it be the unknown object? The two had already guessed what the unknown object Yunlu was talking about was. Its numbers were extremely large, and its destructive power was extremely strong. Wherever it went, not even a blade of grass grew. Just this point alone was enough to show how terrifying this unknown object was. Even our astral dominators couldn't destroy this creature. Over time, the vast universe became a dazzling sight. It was too horrible to look at. Yunhe and Yuntian both sighed. It was as if they had experienced that era. In order to prevent this creature from continuing to destroy the vast universe, countless astral dominators formed the strongest astral combat team and began to destroy this creature. They also did everything they could to seal this passage. There was no doubt that this passage was the one in front of them. It was obvious that they had lost the bet. However, Longao didn't regret it at all. He would do anything for the family. Yunlu could certainly guess what Longao was thinking. He continued helplessly, "About 70% of the thousands of astral dominators died when they destroyed this creature." Thousands of astral dominators sounded like a lot, but in the vast universe it was a pitiful number. Not only that, the two knew very well what it meant to lose 70% of the astral dominators. The attack power of the unknown creature was so strong that it could destroy the astral dominators. It was obvious how terrifying it was. "Uncle Yun, what about the remaining astral dominators?" In order to seal this passage, the most powerful formation masters of the time gathered all of the remaining starry sky sovereigns to set up this formation and seal this passage. So that was the case. There had been thousands of astral dominators in the vast universe, but all of them had perished because of unknown creatures and unknown passageways. It was terrifying. Longao and Xiling did not speak for a long time because this secret was too shocking. Longao was certain that even the other rulers of the starry sky might not know this secret. In the entire vast starry sky there were probably not many people who knew about this. Uncle Yun, thousands of starry sky rulers have perished. Where did the primal chaos stone tablets go? I don't know. They should be scattered everywhere. Uncle Yun looked at the passageway in front of him. If it weren't for the 3 chaos stone tablets, the unknown lifeforms would probably still be rushing out in a frenzy. He sighed deeply. Until now, Yun Lu was still a little scared. If the 3 of them hadn't appeared in time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Just the thought of it scared him. No matter how much he thought about it, he would never have thought that the person who broke open the passage was Longao. Yun Lu was very clear in his heart that the current vast starry sky was a completely different concept from the primal chaos era. They were not on the same level at all. Given the current strength of the starry sky, there was simply no one who could break open the passage. Not even Master God Diviner could. Yun Lu didn't know how Longao had done it. But since Longao didn't speak of his own initiative, Yun Lu didn't ask. In any case, the matter had already happened. What was important now was to see how they could salvage the situation, not who was responsible. Longao, I know what you're thinking. If you want to become a ruler of the starry sky, there is only one way, and that is to devour the primal chaos stone tablet. There is no other way. Longao nodded. Of course he knew that the only way to become a ruler of the starry sky was to devour the primal chaos stone tablet. In the primal chaos era, thousands of primal chaos stone tablets suddenly descended from the starry sky. Those who were fated to devour and refine them all became rulers of the starry sky. In the primal chaos era, were there any rulers of the starry sky who could control the power of primal chaos? This was the question Longao was most concerned about. This was because Longao knew very well that merely possessing a primal chaos stone tablet and someone who could control the power of primal chaos were 2 completely different concepts. Yun Lu shook his head. Our vast starry sky doesn't have the power of primal chaos, so how could anyone control it? But we can't rule out the possibility. It seemed that the situation in the primal chaos era was exactly the same as it was now. The only difference was that the number of rulers of the starry sky in the primal chaos era was far greater than the number of rulers of the starry sky now. The 12 primal chaos stone tablets that had appeared last time had been taken by Master God Diviner, and the 12 that had appeared this time had all fallen into his pocket. It seemed that there were thousands of primal chaos stone tablets in the vast starry sky. It was just that they were scattered everywhere and no one knew about them. As for where these primal chaos stone tablets had come from, no one knew. Uncle Yun, just what is inside this passage? I don't know, but I can say with certainty that this place isn't just a simple space. It's just that until now, no one has been able to take a single step into the passage. With just the 3 of us, it's almost impossible to completely seal off this passage. Longao had already considered this point, but with the current situation, it was too late for regrets. He could only think of a way to salvage the situation. Uncle Yun, can't we begin to repair the formation? The formation core is already broken, and it won't be easy to repair it. Our 3 primal chaos stone tablets shouldn't be able to maintain it for much longer, so we have to think of a solution as soon as possible. Otherwise, once the unknown creatures start to swarm out, the consequences of the starry sky will be unimaginable. No one will be able to resist them. Uncle Yun, what should we do now? In any case, things had already happened, and Longao didn't try to change anything. The current situation was to find a way to seal off the passage and prevent the unknown creatures from continuing to come out. However, Longao knew very well that this was something that had taken thousands of rulers of the starry sky to accomplish. Relying on their own strength was like striking a stone with an egg. It was almost impossible. Longao, I'll say the same thing again. Since you were the one who destroyed the formation, then you are fate. I'm afraid you're the only one who can deal with this, but it's very dangerous. Chapter 26:14. If Yun Lu called it dangerous, it was obvious what it meant. But since things had already come to this, Longao would certainly not shirk his responsibility. Dangerous? Longao was never afraid of danger. Uncle Yun, tell me, what should I do in order to completely seal this passage? Yun Lu seemed to have something he couldn't say. Yun, he said, Longao, the only way now is for you to enter the passage and find a way to block the passage on the other side. Once you're done, we'll find a way to reseal this place. A two-pronged approach. No, you must be joking. Before Longao could say anything, Xiling refused. Xiling was no fool. He knew what kind of danger this would entail. Countless unknown creatures would emerge from the passage. Even thousands of star rulers couldn't handle them, let alone Longao. It was easy to imagine what would happen inside the passage. If Longao stepped into the passage, there would only be one outcome: never to return. Yun He sneered. Not to mention the current purple spirit, even if it was the purple spirit at its peak, they would not even think much of it. Longao, you must know that if it weren't for you, the formation wouldn't have been destroyed and the passage wouldn't have been opened. He waved his hand. Yun Lu stopped Yun He from continuing. Longao, I know what it means to enter the passage. You are destiny. You are the only one who can do this. If anyone else goes, not only will it be useless, it will even delay us. Once the passage is reopened, the unknown creatures will sweep through the vast universe. We don't care, but have you thought about your empire? What about those innocent people? Regarding the meaning in Yun Lu's words, how could Longao not know? Xiling, leave this to me. Before Xiling could speak, Longao spoke first. Xiling felt helpless. In the end, he didn't say anything. Uncle Yun, I promise you. I'm just a little curious. If I enter the passage, how should I seal the passage on the other side? This was the key point. Otherwise, even if he could successfully step into the passage and reach the other end, he would not be able to seal the passage. If that was the case, there was no difference between stepping in and not stepping in. I see. After listening to Yun Lu's explanation of how to seal the passage, Longao and Xiling walked to the other side. Without waiting for Xiling to speak, Longao immediately said, Xiling, go back to the Soaring Dragon Empire first and help me prepare. If I can't seal the passage on the other side, and the unknown creatures sweep across the vast starry sky, we have a countermeasure. Of course, Xiling knew how serious the situation was. Even the ruler of stars couldn't destroy this unknown creature. Once it swept through the vast universe, it would be a complete disaster. Longao, are you really not afraid of death? Longao smiled. Afraid of death? Of course I am afraid of death. However, there are some things that cannot be done, and some things that must be done. Xiling knew Longao well. Once he had decided on something, he would not change his mind. There was no way he could stop Longao from stepping into the passage. Longao, leave the Soaring Dragon Empire to me. Nothing will happen to it. Don't worry. Longao smiled once more. With Xiling taking care of the Soaring Dragon Empire, Longao no longer had anything to worry about. No matter what, no one knew what would happen after he stepped into the passage this time around. Not to mention sealing the passage, whether or not he could even make it out alive was an unknown. He had to prepare for the worst. If he was lucky, it might go smoothly. If he was unlucky, who knew what would happen? After sending off Xiling, Longao did not step into the passage immediately. According to Yun Lu, their 3 Chaos Stone steels could block the passage for thousands of years. If that was the case, he would have more than enough time. Uncle Yun, stepping into the passage this time around is unpredictable. Even if I can seal the passage successfully, I might not make it out alive. Yun Lu was helpless and did not say anything. What Longao said was the truth. Even if Longao sealed the passage and was unable to return, they could only seal the passage. After all, no matter what happened, they could not let the unknown creature leave the passage. It was still the same sentence. Once the unknown creature released from the passage swept through the vast starry sky, the consequences would be unimaginable. Longao, if you have something to say, just say it. As long as I can do it, there won't be any problems. Longao had no doubts about Yunlu and the powerful force behind him. Even if Yunlu did not want to fall out with the Master Clairvoyant, he believed that the Master Clairvoyant would not dare to provoke Yunlu. This was without a doubt. Uncle Yun, after I step into the passage, I don't know how long it will take. After I leave, I hope you can help me take care of the soaring dragon empire. In an instant, Yunlu already knew what Longao meant. Not only did Longao have a grudge against the Master Clairvoyant, but he also had a death feud with the 9 great starry sky empires. After Longao left, the soaring dragon empire would be targeted by the Master Clairvoyant and the others. Yunlu did not even think about it before agreeing. Don't worry about this. No matter what happens while you are gone, your empire will be fine. With Yunlu's assurance, Longao could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Longao, when are you going to step into the passage? 1,000 years would pass in the blink of an eye for people like them. Under such circumstances, the longer they delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for them. The sooner, the better. Longao, of course, knew the seriousness of the matter. He smiled and said, I will step into the passage now. Yunlu seemed like he still wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. After watching Longao step into the passage, he sighed deeply and said helplessly, Aren't we going a little overboard by doing this? Patriarch, those who achieve great things do not bother about trifles. We have waited for so many years. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If we miss this opportunity, who knows how many more years we will have to wait. Big Brother is right, Patriarch. We have waited for too long. If anything unexpected happens, without waiting for Yun Tian to finish speaking, Yunlu had already waved his hand, deeply sighed, and very helplessly said, I know what you mean, what you said is very right. It is impossible to give up a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a Longao. On one side was his daughter, and on the other side was a huge matter. After thinking it over, Yunlu ultimately chose to give up on his daughter. He also knew that they had waited for so many years for a Longao. If they chose to give up just like that, they would really be a little unwilling. If they missed this opportunity, who knew how long they would have to wait? Chapter 26:15. Xiling successfully returned to the soaring dragon empire. However, she didn't mention a word about the Jianling mountain. Xiling was very clear on what Longao's decision to enter the tunnel meant. It was very likely that he would never return. If others knew about this, it was easy to imagine the consequences. Right now, she could only help Longao take care of his backyard. As for the Empire's safety, Xiling wasn't worried at all. Xiling wasn't an idiot. She was very clear that since Longao chose to enter the tunnel, it was without a doubt that he was considering the Empire's safety. The only way was Yunlu. Yunlu had 3 space rulers. Even the divine mathematician didn't dare to make a move. With Yunlu's promise, things couldn't be any better. As for the Jianling mountain, no one in the vast universe knew about it yet. Inside the tunnel, Longao stepped into the tunnel. He was 120% alert. Step by step, he didn't dare to be careless. Inside the tunnel, there were countless unknown objects sealed. Even if his cultivation had broken through the limit of space immortal realm, he couldn't stop the army of unknown objects. Although Longao didn't want to admit it, the truth was right in front of him. If he were to be swept away by the army of unknown creatures, the result would be obvious. He was very curious. Under normal circumstances, there should be countless unknown objects inside the tunnel. But what happened? Ever since he stepped into the tunnel, not to mention unknown creatures, he didn't even see a strand of hair. What was going on? He couldn't figure it out. Longao's speed was very slow. According to Yun Lu, the combined power of the 3 tablets could seal the tunnel for thousands of years. For him, it was more than enough. The tunnel was very long. He couldn't see the end. Longao didn't know what was at the end of the tunnel. However, according to his mission, he had to reach the end of the tunnel and seal it. Then, he would be able to return safely. Under the double seal, the tunnel should be safe. The mission was difficult. It was very dangerous. It could even be said that he had a 90% chance of dying. After walking for about 10 minutes, which was a few hundred steps, Longao found that there wasn't any danger in the tunnel. It seemed like his worries were unnecessary. Gradually, Longao began to speed up his pace, but he was still careful. He didn't stop being careful just because he was temporarily safe. What a long tunnel! The more he walked, the more surprised he became. Longao had never imagined that the passage would be so long. He sped up again, even using the speed of time teleportation. Longao himself was a peak starry sky immortal, and with time teleportation, one could imagine how terrifying his speed was. Even so, after walking for an hour, they still hadn't reached the end of the passage. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't surprised. Just relying on Longao's speed, he walked for more than 2 hours before he finally reached the end of the passageway with great difficulty. If he wanted to seal the passage, he would first have to seal the outside of the passage. Then, he would have to take advantage of the gap to enter the passage. Then, he would have to reseal the passage inside and reinforce the seal. Only in this way would he be absolutely safe. He took a deep breath. Longao didn't know what was beyond the tunnel, but a place with an army of unknown creatures couldn't be a simple place. However, since things had already happened, he would have to go out sooner or later. Longao wasn't a wishy-washy person. He wanted to end things quickly and save himself some trouble. He took a step forward. In the blink of an eye, Longao's figure had already left the passage and arrived outside. It was dusky. The moment Longao stepped out, he felt a wave of dizziness, as if he was in purgatory. It was truly disgusting. What was this place? The flow of air between heaven and earth was completely different from the vast starry sky outside. Not only could it erode his bloodline and primordial spirit, it even had an indescribable nausea. This nausea wasn't just nausea. He didn't dare hesitate. Although he was very curious about this place, Longao didn't take the risk to continue moving forward. Who knew what was in front of him? His most important task now was to seal the passage as fast as possible and leave this place. Just as Longao was about to seal the passage, the situation suddenly changed. A black mass quickly came from the left and right. It was none other than the unknown creatures that had swept through the vast starry sky. Longao was very wary of these unknown creatures. If it was one-on-one, he wouldn't have the slightest fear. However, the number of unknown creatures was too terrifying. Even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms, it would be difficult to resist the invasion of the army of unknown creatures. If he braced himself and continued to seal the passage, not to mention sealing the passage, it would be a problem whether he could leave this place alive. Even if he was extremely unwilling in his heart, Longao could only give up on sealing the passage. Under the time teleportation, his entire person scurried out. However, Longao discovered that after entering this space, his time teleportation was intercepted. In other words, the speed of his time teleportation was abruptly reduced by more than half. What kind of concept was this? Even so, Longao didn't dare to be careless and rushed forward as fast as he could. No matter what happened, he couldn't be swept away by the army of unknown creatures. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died. The army of unknown creatures, not to mention their strength, possessed a terrifying power that could erode one's bloodline and primordial spirit. If there were only one or two of them, it would be fine, but if there were countless of them at the same time, layer upon layer of erosion, not to mention him, even the starry sky ruler wouldn't be able to resist. Longao had already fused with the chaotic nine-colored lotus and reached a state of endless circulation, thus achieving true immortality. Even so, Longao still didn't dare to fight head-on because he didn't know what would happen if he was surrounded by the army of unknown creatures. This was a risk he couldn't take. Longao tried to release his primordial spirit to cover the entire space to see how big this space was. He didn't know if he didn't cover it, but when he did, he was shocked because this space was boundless. With his strength, his primordial spirit couldn't cover the entire space. He was very surprised. It seemed that this place wasn't simple at all. However, it made sense after thinking about it. Being able to release an army of unknown creatures and destroy thousands of starry sky rulers in the vast starry sky was an incredible thing in itself. If Yun Lu hadn't said it himself, he wouldn't have believed it even if he was beaten to death. Longao's speed soared to the extreme, but the speed of the army of unknown creatures wasn't a secret. Chapter 26:16. If he was at his peak, Longao was confident that he could escape the pursuit of the army of unknown lifeforms. But now, the situation was completely different. The current time teleportation could only reach half of its original speed. What kind of concept was this? Longao knew very well that if he continued at this speed, he would be caught up by the army of unknown lifeforms in less than 10 minutes at most and be directly overwhelmed. What should he do? He continued to increase his speed. But time teleportation was already at its limit. No matter how fast he increased his speed, it was useless. 10 minutes later, Longao's speed had already reached its limit, but it was still useless. The final result: Longao was instantly covered by the army of unknown lifeforms. If it were anyone else, they would definitely die. Except for Longao. Again, Longao had already merged with the chaotic nine-colored lotus and achieved an endless cycle. In other words, the current Longao himself was immortal. Using his finger as a sword, the sword chi merged to control the starry sky and began to slash around him. With Longao as the center, black starry sky cracks began to appear and gradually formed a starry sky crack air shield around Longao, protecting him. Even so, Longao did not relax in the slightest. The army of unknown lifeforms around him, even with the starry sky crack air shield, continued to attack from afar. Moths to a flame. The army of unknown lifeforms around him knew that if they attacked forcefully, they would be courting death. But they still refused to give up. The number of unknown lifeforms was too large. At a glance, it was a black mass. Longao's face was very solemn and as ugly as it could be. Although the starry sky crack air shield around him was protecting him, at this rate, the unknown lifeforms would break through the shield sooner or later. At that time, he would still die. What should he do? For a moment, Longao did not have a good way to defend against the attack of the army of unknown lifeforms. Using his finger as a sword, Longao did not dare to be careless at all. Both hands continuously slashed out sword fingers. As the starry sky cracks around him slowly passed, Longao began to be unable to resist. Half an hour at most. In other words, if Longao could not think of a way to escape within an hour, he would definitely be surrounded by the army of unknown lifeforms. At that time, he would be doomed eternally. Longao's expression became more and more serious. At this moment, in a moment of desperation, the Chaos Axe suddenly appeared in Longao's hand. The Chaos Axe was many times more powerful than the finger sword. However, for the current situation, there was no difference between the two. It was just a matter of time. If he were to use the Chaos Axe, he would probably die even faster. 9-colored Chaos Lotus. Just as Longao did not know what to do, the 9-colored lotus flower on the primal Chaos Axe suddenly floated out and stopped in front of Longao. What did that mean? The chaotic 9-colored lotus turned into 9 petals, surrounding Longao in different directions, and began to spin. The spinning speed became faster and faster, slowly forming a tornado. Longao was pleasantly surprised because he was pleasantly surprised to find that he could control this tornado to move forward. In this way, the army of unknown lifeforms around him would not be able to get close to him at all. Not daring to hesitate in the slightest, Longao immediately moved forward. In just a few seconds, the tornado around him disappeared without a trace. Fortunately, Longao had already escaped the encirclement of the army of unknown lifeforms. Once again, he sped up at his fastest speed. This time, Longao directly used all his strength to increase his speed to the extreme. Behind him, on his left and right, there was an army of unknown lifeforms. Only in front of him were there no unknown lifeforms. Longao was very curious. Why was there not a single unknown lifeform in front of him? Intuition told Longao that this matter was definitely not that simple. However, things had already turned out this way. It was almost impossible to retreat to the left and right. There was only one way to go, and that was to continue moving forward and hope that he could leave smoothly and completely escape the attack of the army of unknown lifeforms. After running wildly for more than 10 minutes, suddenly, the army of unknown lifeforms behind him, including the left and right, suddenly disappeared without a trace. What's going on? Looking at the empty surroundings, Longao was completely dumbfounded. He had no idea what had happened. Why did the army of unknown lifeforms around him suddenly disappear without a trace? Not a single one of them was left behind. The disappearance was a little too sudden. It was so sudden that it made him feel a little unwilling. Longao looked around vigilantly and released his spirit. Except for the front, he could clearly sense the presence of unknown lifeforms in other places. Whether it was the back, the left, or the right, he could clearly sense the presence of unknown lifeforms. The more this was so, the more afraid Longao was. In this situation, he definitely could not retreat, nor could he go to the left or the right. The only way forward was in front. Even if he was unwilling to do so, he could only brace himself and move forward. Even if he knew that there was a tiger in the mountain, he would still continue forward. Longao took one step after another. His speed was neither too fast nor too slow. After a few minutes, the black mist around him grew thicker. The moment it entered his body, it would begin to corrode Longao's blood and spirit. Even with his strength, Longao had to defend against it with all his might. Otherwise, if he were to be corroded for too long, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even so, Longao continued moving forward. If he were to turn back now, even if he could reach the entrance of the tunnel, he would not be able to seal it. In the end, it would be a wasted trip. That would be a waste of time. The most important thing now was to think of a way to deal with the unknown lifeforms. Only then could he proceed with the seal smoothly. Otherwise, everything would be for naught. Step by step, Longao was extremely careful. He did not dare to let his guard down. Huff huff, huff huff huff, huff 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 huff. Just as Longao was about to make his move, he suddenly heard a loud noise coming from all around him. The further he walked, the louder it got. Could it be a dragon? Longao was almost certain that there were other lifeforms in this mysterious space other than the unknown lifeforms. But as for what they were, he did not know. After a few thousand steps, Longao finally caught sight of the appearance of the mysterious lifeform. It had the body of a huge mountain. The two eyes on its head were like two small mountains. The noise it made was similar to that of thunder. It was not a dragon. Longao had never seen such a lifeform before. But needless to say, it was strong. Longao could clearly sense that this powerful lifeform was a half-step star dominator. Chapter 26:17. Longao knew very well what it meant to be a half-step universe dominator. Although his cultivation base had successfully broken through to the peak universe immortal realm, it was still a bit lacking compared to a half-step universe dominator. He took a detour. He must not wake up this half-step universe dominator divine beast in front of him. Despicable human, do you think you can leave here alive? While Longao was thinking of a way to sneak past, the situation suddenly changed. The starry sky divine beast, who was sleeping soundly just now, suddenly woke up. Its two mountain-like huge eyes stared coldly at Longao. A chill went straight to his mind. Not to mention the strength of the space divine beast, just the strength of the primordial spirit was comparable to his own. What did this mean? Although the space divine beast couldn't use the primordial spirit to suppress him, this in itself showed how powerful this space divine beast was. He was definitely not a match for the other party. How should I address you? The space divine beast was very curious and said in surprise, "You can resist the suppression of my primordial spirit. It seems you're not simple." Longao just smiled and didn't say anything. "Human, I'm very curious. How did you enter the astral prison?" "Astral prison? Where is this place?" The space divine beast saw the human's expression and instantly knew that the other party didn't know about this place. The more this was the case, the more curious he was. Because even if it was by chance, the other party couldn't have entered here. "Tell me, how did you enter the astral prison?" Longao couldn't tell the truth, so he said helplessly, "I don't know. I accidentally entered a valley. I don't know what happened, but I seem to have triggered something and was directly teleported here. An army of unknown creatures attacked me just now." There was no doubt. In the space divine beast's view, Longao's words were reasonable. "Human, I can spare your life as long as you promise me one thing. How about it? Tell me." Longao of course didn't agree immediately. In his opinion, who knew what the space divine beast would ask for? The space divine beast didn't care at all and said, "I've been sealed in the astral prison for countless years. My only hope is to leave here. You should understand what I mean." It would be strange if he didn't understand. To be able to seal a half-step starry sky ruler divine beast, it was obvious what kind of existence this astral prison was. Would Longao agree? He was very curious because Longao still didn't know who sealed the starry sky mythical beast. If he released the starry sky mythological beast and caused trouble again, then the losses would outweigh the gains. What should he do? "I would like to ask, what is the astral prison?" From the beginning to the end, the starry sky divine beast did not take Longao seriously at all. "My true form is Xian." "What?" What kind of divine beast was this? Longao had never heard of such a space god beast, but if this was the Chaos Era, many people would be shocked to hear this name. They might even have nightmares. Biden didn't care at all and said coldly, "In the Chaos Era, someone accidentally opened this place and found that this place is different from other places in the vast starry sky. Once you enter, you will be eroded by evil currents. If you don't die, you will be controlled and become an evil puppet." Longao didn't say anything and just listened quietly. Intuition told him that Yunlu might not be telling the truth. As for whether Bai An was telling the truth or not, Longao didn't doubt it because he knew very well that he was nothing in Bai An's eyes. There was no need for Bai An to deceive him. At that time, the starry sky rulers controlled the vast starry sky. They jointly controlled this place and named it the astral prison. My God. So that's how it was. It seemed that Yunlu wasn't telling the truth. This place was chosen by the Starry Sky rulers. Then the secret of the Starry Sky ruler's death was not what Yun-Lu had said. He felt like he had been duped. What did Yun-Lu mean? He couldn't figure it out. Bai-an didn't care about the expression on Long-Ao's face and continued, all the rulers of the Starry Sky through some powerful existences that they couldn't control, such as half-step rulers of the Starry Sky like me, directly into the Starry Sky prison. Bai-an, there's one thing I don't understand. According to a Starry Sky ruler, thousands of Starry Sky rulers died in order to seal this place in the chaotic era. Speaking up to here, Long-Ao did not continue speaking, but the meaning of his words was already very clear. Regardless of whether Yun-Lu was telling the truth or not, there was one thing that couldn't be denied. The thousands of Starry Sky rulers of the vast Starry Sky had indeed all died. Long-Ao absolutely chose to believe this. Bai-an snorted coldly. Bai-an's face was full of mockery as he sneered contemptuously, "Those who are unjust are doomed to destruction." At that time, they only thought of this place as a cage. They didn't expect that this space itself was a junction of the Starry Sky. Another vast Starry Sky had opened up this passage, and an army of unknown creatures had emerged. Hearing Bai-an's words, Long-Ao was completely dumbfounded. He knew very well what another vast Starry Sky meant. Everyone knew that there was only one vast Starry Sky. Why did Bai-an speak of another vast Starry Sky at this time? What was going on? Long-Ao was completely shocked. If this matter were to spread, it would shake the entire vast Starry Sky. It seemed that Bai-an was an existence of the vast Starry Sky. As for the army of unknown creatures, they came from another vast Starry Sky. Unbelievable, simply unbelievable. Bai-an, since the army of unknown creatures from another vast Starry Sky can attack others in the vast Starry Sky, why didn't they attack you? Behind them, on the left and right sides, only the front was where the unknown creature army did not dare to come. This was something that Long-Ao was very curious about. He did not know what was going on. Bai-an laughed at himself and said helplessly, "Do you really think they are afraid of me? Was it not?" However, looking at the expression on Bai-an's face, for some reason, a bad premonition arose spontaneously. It seemed that the army of unknown creatures didn't dare to approach because of Bai-an's strength, but because of something else. What was the reason? Everyone, including me, is occupying a certain place. That's why the army of unknown creatures doesn't dare to approach. Otherwise, even with our strength, we wouldn't be able to resist the invasion of the army of unknown creatures. I believe you have seen the power of the army of unknown creatures. Chapter 26:18. He nodded. Long-Ao had personally experienced the strength of the army of unknown creatures. If it were not for the protection of the Space Fisher and the Chaos Nine-Colored Lotus, he would most likely have fallen by now. How could he still be standing here? According to Bai-an, there should be other people or divine beasts in the space prison besides him. They each occupied a place that the unknown creatures did not dare to approach. Since then, although these people and divine beasts were temporarily saved, they could only stay here forever, which was no different from being sealed. Life was worse than death. He sighed deeply in his heart. However, Long-Ao did not have much sympathy or other feelings in his heart. The winner is the king, the loser is the bandit. In the vast Starry Sky, the strong are respected. No matter where one goes, this was the hard truth, the cruel reality that could not be changed. The ruler of the Starry Sky was the most powerful existence in the vast Starry Sky. Not to mention ordinary Starry Sky cultivators, even a half-step ruler of the Starry Sky was an ant-like existence in the eyes of the ruler of the Starry Sky. Everyone below the ruler of the Starry Sky was an ant. Longao still did not understand how the thousands of rulers of the starry sky of the chaotic era fell. Bayan seemed to be able to read Longao's mind. Human, do you not understand how the thousands of rulers of the starry sky fell? He nodded. Longao did not hide his thoughts in the slightest. Although he did not know why Bayan told him this, he was very willing to help Bayan as long as it was mutually beneficial. In any case, what Yunlu told him was not true, and there was no need for him to stick to his previous thoughts. The two seemed to have thought of the same thing. Each with their own ulterior motives? Each with their own needs? In fact, it was the same principle. At first, they only thought of this place as a prison. They never thought that it was connected to another vast starry sky, and that unknown creatures would constantly emerge. Seemingly very happy, Bayan continued, these unknown creatures could not only kill other people, but could even kill the rulers of the starry sky, so they were afraid. Longao had already thought of this point. You should have already guessed what happened later. Thousands of rulers of the starry sky, along the way, killed the unknown creatures that had already entered the vast starry sky. Some of them took the risk to enter here, and thus forcibly sealed the passage to another vast starry sky. However, there were still countless armies of unknown creatures left here. Everything was clear. He reaped what he sowed. Although Longao despised these starry sky rulers, the vast starry sky was innocent. The thousands of starry sky rulers had not crossed their bottom line. Otherwise, the vast starry sky would have been destroyed if they had ignored this matter. Bayan, in that case, I won't hide it from you. Since things had already come to this, Longao did not intend to continue hiding it. He revealed the purpose of his entry this time. He was not surprised at all. I've already guessed it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to enter so casually. However, Longao, I can tell you clearly that since you've entered, it's impossible for you to reseal the passage, let alone leave this place. How could Longao not know about this? That was also what gave him the greatest headache. Although he still did not know why Yunlu was deceiving him, regardless of what happened, he still had to seal the passageway. Once the passageway was breached and the army of unknown lifeforms swarmed out, the consequences would be unimaginable. Just the thought of it was terrifying. Whether it was for the vast starry sky or for his family, he had to seal the passageway. He could not allow the army of unknown lifeforms to leave the starry sky prison. Let's join forces and leave this place together. Sure. Longao agreed without the slightest hesitation because regardless of whether Bayan was good or bad, he had been sealed for so many years. What was the point of doing this? However, Longao said, you and I can join forces, but you have to promise me that we will seal the passageway. Before Bayan could speak, Longao continued, Bayan, I know you don't care about the lives of others in the vast starry sky, but I do. Once the army of unknown lifeforms swarms out and sweeps across the vast starry sky, you can imagine the consequences. If you don't agree, I'd rather stay here alone. Bayan's face instantly turned cold. He wasn't a fool. Leaving and leaving after being sealed were two completely different concepts. Leaving could be said to be a 9 out of 10 chance of survival, but leaving after being sealed would most likely lead to certain death. However, did he have a choice? If Bayan had a way to leave, he wouldn't have waited until now. The anger in his heart turned into billowing murderous intent. He forcefully swallowed it back down. Okay, I promise you. However, Longao, with our strength alone, it is impossible to fight against the army of unknown lifeforms. Only by joining forces with all the experts in the starry sky prison might we be able to seal the passageway and leave. Longao also thought of this. After all, his and Bayan's strength was limited. They could not fight against the entire army of unknown lifeforms alone. I want to ask, how many people and divine beasts are there in the starry sky prison? This was the most crucial point because the more people there were, the more advantageous it would be for him to seal the passageway. This was without a starry sky ruler. If there were more than 10 starry sky rulers, they could choose to ignore the army of unknown lifeforms in the starry sky prison and seal the passageway by force. In any case, the passageway to the vast starry sky had been sealed. There was no need to worry about the army of unknown lifeforms pouring in from the other starry sky. There was definitely no starry sky ruler left. Almost 99% of the starry sky rulers had fallen. Even Yun Lu, master godly mathematician, and the others would not casually step into this place. Even starry sky rulers were not immortal. If they were surrounded and overwhelmed by the army of unknown lifeforms, only death would await them. At that time, the Chaos Tablet would leave and choose a new candidate. Not to mention starry sky rulers, no one would be willing to take this risk. Taking 10,000 steps back. Even if the army of unknown lifeforms poured into the vast starry sky, Master Godly Mathematician, Yun Lu, and the others, as starry sky rulers, could protect themselves. As for the life and death of the vast starry sky, they did not care at all. Longao could almost say that since Yun Lu knew about this, why didn't he personally take action? After all, the strength of the 3 starry sky rulers was not to be underestimated. In the end, Yun Lu did not do so because the 3 of them were afraid of the army of unknown lifeforms. He did not despise them. After all, if it were him, he would have done the same. Chapter 26:19. I don't know the details. Feng Wu thought for a while and continued, according to my estimation, there should be no less than tens of thousands of starry sky cultivators and starry sky mythological beasts, or even more. Longao was very surprised, because Longao never thought that there would be so many starry sky cultivators and starry sky mythological beasts in the starry sky prison. There was almost no need to guess. Longao could even be sure that the starry sky cultivators and starry sky mythological beasts sealed here were probably not weak. Should he be happy? Or sad? Longao himself did not know what he was thinking in his heart. But it had already happened, and there was nothing he could do. But this should not be a bad thing for him, because the more people there were, the better it would be for him to seal the passage and leave this place. There was no doubt about that. All of a sudden, Feng Wu laughed. Longao did not speak and just looked at Feng Wu in front of him, because he did not know what Feng Wu meant by laughing like that. Longao, I advise you not to have too high of an expectation. Why? Some people would rather be sealed and wait for a surefire chance than take the risk. In an instant, Longao had already understood the meaning behind Baian's word. In the end, it meant that everyone was afraid of death. However, after thinking about it, he felt relieved. After being sealed for so long, he believed that everyone knew the strength of the unknown lifeform army. Once they forced their way out and sealed the passage, they would most likely die. Without full confidence, who knows how many people would be willing to take the risk? I still want to give it a try. Longao, although this space is very big, there are unknown creatures everywhere. If you want to do the work one by one, I advise you to forget about it. There were unknown creatures everywhere. Just the thought of it was terrifying. No matter where he went, he would be besieged by the army of unknown creatures. If he was not careful, he would fall into eternal damnation. Longao's face was very solemn. No matter what, he only had a little more than 1,000 years. Once he missed this time, the passage would be opened again. At that time, countless unknown creatures would continue to pour into the vast starry sky. Although it was difficult for the unknown creatures in this space to destroy the vast universe, it was still a disaster for the vast universe. Longao didn't say anything. Ma and I also did not continue to speak. Time seemed to have frozen. Everything around them was pitch black. Both of them knew that at this moment there must be countless unknown creatures staring at them. In the vast starry skies, Yun-Lu and the other two did not dare to take even half a step away. Although the 3 Chaos Stone tablets had joined forces to seal the passageway, it was still very unstable. The 3 of them had to be on guard at all times. They couldn't let their guard down. If an army of unknown life forms were to emerge from the tunnel, the consequences would be unimaginable. You've informed him? Patriarch, we've already notified Master God Diviner. If everything goes according to plan, he should be here by now. That was it. As soon as the words left his mouth, Master God Diviner appeared, a very serious expression on his face. After all, Master God Diviner had already explained the situation to him. Never in his wildest dreams could Master God Diviner have guessed that such a secret existed in the Primal Chaos era. Master Clairvoyant knew better than anyone what it meant to lose thousands of rulers of stars. Yun-Lu, what's going on? You already know the gist of the matter. I'll keep it short. Longao unintentionally opened the passageway and released an army of unknown life forms. We've already eliminated 80% of them. The rest shouldn't be able to play any trick. I've already informed the 9 great starry sky empires and the other peak races. They will eliminate the remaining unknown life forms. Yun-Lu seemed very satisfied. Very good. Longao has already entered the passageway. He's sealing it inside, and we'll seal it here. With the double seal, we should be able to isolate them. Master God Diviner was very surprised. It was Longao again. He didn't know why everything was related to Longao. From now on, inform everyone that before Longao returns, no one is allowed to attack the Soaring Dragon Empire. Otherwise, Yun-Lu didn't continue, but the meaning of his words was very clear. With the strength of Yun-Lu and the others, plus the power behind them, no one in the vast starry sky could contend with Yun-Lu. If it were someone else, Master God Diviner might not compromise. However, the army of unknown life forms was related to the survival of the vast starry sky. He didn't want the vast starry sky to fall into eternal damnation, so he reluctantly agreed. I know what to do. Master God Diviner felt some lingering fear when he thought of the unknown life forms that could destroy the rulers of stars. Yun-Lu, tell me the truth. If Longao fails, what kind of result will it be? Yun-He and Yun-Tian looked at each other and saw deep helplessness in each other's eyes. Master God Diviner had a bad premonition when he saw the expressions on their faces. Master God Diviner, things have already come to this point. I'll be honest with you. If Longao fails to seal the passageway, then after 1,000 years, the passageway will be opened again. At that time, countless unknown life forms will swarm out and sweep across the vast starry sky. When that time comes, let alone ordinary people, even you and I can't be alone. But Master God Diviner cursed in his heart because he already knew what Yun-Lu meant. It was very simple. Once the passageway opened and the army of unknown life forms rushed out, the vast starry sky would be destroyed. Even the rulers of stars would be powerless to reverse the situation. Master God Diviner didn't want to see such an outcome. Why only let Longao enter the passageway? We can let more people in. Shaking his head, Yun-Lu sighed and said helplessly, Master God Diviner, I know what you mean. But since Longao opened the passageway, then Longao is this time's fate. If he can't seal the passageway, then I'm afraid no one can. Both Yun-Lu and Master God Diviner had devoured Chaos Tablet. Master God Diviner couldn't figure out why Yun-Lu's divination skills were far superior to his own. He really couldn't figure out why this was the case, and he didn't know why. Yun-Lu, I want to ask if you've already mastered the power of chaos? Yun-Lu smiled. Yun-He and Yun-Tian also smiled. It didn't matter if the 3 of them didn't smile, but when they did, Master God Diviner felt even more uncertain. his intuition told him that his guess was likely to be true. If that was the case, then things would be very troublesome. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.